Hello again, everybody. We are back, as usual, to our regularly scheduled time slot as of now, uh, provided it doesn't change. I'm back from England, and we are joined by Josh Ferme this evening to
Hello.
talk about the news. Yeah, I'm sure that pretty much everyone in our audience is familiar with you, but if you want to give a quick introduction and where they can find you, etc., please go ahead.
Okay, so most people are probably familiar with my work at Lotus Eaters, and I recently left. And at the minute, you can find me on my YouTube channel of my same name, and that's nice and easy, very simple. And if you could check it out, I only started it about 3 weeks ago, so that would very much help.
And so far, I've really liked the content you've been putting out. I think that if people like my content that deals with a lot of social science topics and statistics, they would also enjoy a lot of what you've been putting out. And I presume going to go in similar sort of direction with content in the future.
I would say so, and also thank you very much. I'm going to try. I'm basically going to do lots of psychology, all the stuff that I've sort of accumulated as video ideas, but I'm also going to sort of deviate. I'm into my history. There's also sort of biology and chemistry stuff, and I just want it to be a very sort of general, informative video thing. I've approached it with the sort of mindset of I'd been exposed to so much slop on Twitter that I wanted to create anti-slop, and that's what I'm trying
Ah,
to do.
yes. We are familiar with the concept. Or at least I have. I tried to turn slop into a gem. Just like this is
okay.
like almost like the
Polishing
bait
a
and switch
turd,
kind of
such
thing.
as it were.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Well, it's sort of. I mean, this is something that AA did. You sort of pull a bait and switch. You sort of gimmick them with something
Oh yeah.
easily digestible,
Well,
but then once you actually you grab it, like, whoa, okay, I wasn't expecting this. Like it just goes 180. Like I did I did a video about black fatigue a few days ago just because it was very cliched to people in the audience, and I realized I can make a case that LBJ was technically, in the American sense, a great man for all the wrong reasons, though, much like Stalin and Hitler and all those people were, because he
oh
also
sure.
he also made his mark on the American landscape, and probably not in a good way, but it's still there.
Well, certainly not in a good way. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's certainly
yeah.
not in a
Who
good
would you
way.
list off
And
as such great men? Woodrow Wilson,
Stalin, Hitler,
FDR, and
Mussolini, yeah, those are the ones that you listed off as far as the American sense goes. All not exactly the greatest men when it comes to American history, but it's the ones you remember, and all for state overreach, which is rather interesting.
of course, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Cool, cool. And I'll have to add an at to your
3 minutes
YouTube
from
channel sort of
Godwin's law.
description as well.
Yeah, very much so.
Oh, right, right, of course.
Welcome to the internet.
Oh well, thank you. People should be able to find it. It's just Josh Firm, just spelt very weirdly because I've got a strange Scottish second name. It's not
Well,
French, by the way.
yeah,
Lots of
it
people
is
have
in the
been
title.
accusing me of being French.
Well, I
Oh
did
yeah, that's
assume.
true.
Sorry,
You're
my
too
mistake.
calm to be a
Offensive.
Frenchman.
Thank you.
I have a
And a
lot
Scot,
of
apparently.
oh, well, yeah, I suppose so. I have a lot of shit to talk about the French regarding some of the science topics,
Why
which
does
I
everyone dunk on the
did
French?
front load. When if you know anything about the case that
Aside
I've
from the
been
fact that
looking
Macron just
into,
got slapped in the face by his like turtle-looking wife.
I did find it funny though, as I will get to, is that this scientist just committed some of the most flagrant ethics violations I've ever seen, and in a
Scientists
sort of
violate
scathing,
ethics? No.
but in
Say it
a
isn't so.
scathing report, I think it was from LaPont or LaPointe or however it's pronounced.
Le Pen.
All of the comments, whatever, all of the comments that had been left on it were just complaining that the article was written in English. And, like,
That is very
no
characteristically
disgust
French, yes.
with the horrible things this man has done, just complaining that the article's in English.
I
Okay.
love talking about these sorts of things, ethics violations. It's like the
Oh
equivalent
yeah,
of gossip in the social sciences, isn't
it
it?
is. This was in hard science, unfortunately, in medical science more
Oh,
specifically.
even worse.
Ooh, yeah, and involves the unethical, unapproved use of experimental medication on people who fundamentally either can't consent or are vulnerable populations, namely the homeless, people with AIDS, and children. So I'm surprised people don't know this guy's name, Didier Ronald. He's probably would be called French Fauci, but Mengele may be more accurate.
That's who I had in mind.
And they, much like Fauci, they made nativity figures of him and sold them in France for a period of time. Just truly horrific stuff. But
Creepy that
listen,
that happens. I don't understand. We didn't
yes.
do that in Britain. I think it's because we had very unaesthetic people giving us the news. They're all sort of weird looking. No one wants a figurine of them.
Well,
Not
he's
to say
fairly
that Fauci's, the figure of good looks either.
no, and
No,
this
he
guy's
looks like a
fairly
rodent.
strange looking too. Yeah, but he is rat-like in appearance.
What did you guys
However,
have?
I
Oh
thought-
yeah, Matt Hancock.
Oh, right.
Mm.
I thought I'd start with this post from Truth Social that Trump made just because of how scathing it is, and I appreciate how he writes in all caps.
It looks like his
yes.
keyboard's broken.
Spoon, do you want to read this? This was his Memorial Day message to the American people.
Happy Memorial Day to all, to all, including the
Yeah.
scum that spent the last 4 years trying to destroy our country through warped radical left minds who allowed 21 million. Why did he write 21 million in numbers and
Million.
letters?
Million. That many.
Yeah, 21
I'm
million
confused.
million.
People to illegally enter our country, many of them being criminals and mentally insane, through an open border that only an incompetent president would approve. I don't think it was conscience, actually. And through judges who are on a mission to keep murderers, drugs dealers, rapists, gang members, and release prisoners from all over the world in our country so they can rob, murder, and rape again, which basically proves the Constitution doesn't mean shit. Sorry, Americans. Actually, I'm not sorry. What
Yeah,
the fuck?
sorry.
I don't ever
Sorry,
apologize.
sorry.
Fuck that shit. All protected by these USA-hating judges who suffer from an ideology that is sick and very dangerous for our country, for the world, actually. Hopefully, the United States Supreme Court and other good and compassionate judges throughout the... you don't need compassion. You need, like, hard fucking order. Will save us from the decisions of the monsters who want our country to go to hell. But fear not, we have made great progress over the last 4 months, and America will soon be safe and great again. Happy Memorial Day, and God bless America.
I mean, it's again, I just like the way that he types. It always amuses me.
Yeah, I
just
joke
the
that he
first
types
sentence,
like a black
including
woman.
The scum. Yeah, including the scum. I like
If
that.
you've ever seen black women on Twitter, they have no concept of punctuation. They write the same way they talk. Like, it's one sentence.
Well, he's got punctuation in this.
Yes, I
He's
know,
got
but it's in
quite a lot of
caps.
punctuation.
He's got
Yes,
the distinct double line of ChatGPT there. The one that it
Oh,
loves to
that's
put into
true.
everything.
That is true. It does have that distinct double. Well, I don't know if he did that.
ChatGPT
though.
does that?
I mean,
okay, I
don't-
do that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean,
if
it's
ChatGPT
grammatically correct.
Would have spit this out either.
I'd be surprised, to be fair. You'd probably get a content warning.
Yes. So
It is quite a
Okay.
signature style, though. Like, if you ever see Trump type normally with, like, a capital and lowercase, you know something horrible happened to him.
right.
Or it's not really him.
Speaking of Trump, and this moves into the
Yes,
I think,
what's up?
primary topic, which is about some of the academic stuff, is that the Trump administration moves to cut all remaining federal funding contracts with Harvard. We covered this a little bit last week. Well,
If
about
that
how
man
much they'd
isn't
already
Jewish,
lost.
I'd be very confused.
So so far they've already cut
Physiognomy.
2.2 billion. Government has already.
Getting
I
to
guess
make
it
us a
reached
tad
nearly
bigger.
3. Yes. There we
Thank
go.
you. There we go. Ah.
So, President Trump's administration plans to terminate the federal government's remaining contracts with Harvard University, according to a letter
Whoa.
sent to federal agencies on Tuesday. The letter from the U.S. General Services Administration directs all federal agencies to review and potentially terminate or relocate their contracts with Harvard with an official value at about $100 million. And so that is on top of the, nearly $3 billion has already been terminated in federal research grants for the Ivy League School and moved last week to revoke its ability to enroll international students. Those roughly 6,800 students make up about 27% of Harvard's total enrollment. And as I mentioned last week, there was just a huge scandal with that because one student had been arrested and deported who was technically still a student. I think it was at Harvard, I'm fairly sure, but had actually overstayed his student visa and had previously graduated. So obviously with the murder of the 2 members of the Israeli embassy, that kind of Free Palestine stuff is obviously getting a lot of understandable backlash, and Harvard has been a hotbed for that. So it makes sense that their funding is being totally
I
cut off.
find the timing of the murder very suspicious.
Oh, sure. as we also covered, yes. And that if you want to really foment
Yeah,
support
false flag agreed.
support for Israel. I mean, that has done that event was going to do it, because these were two people who were innocents, who were killed, who were pro-Palestine themselves, allegedly, and were murdered in cold blood by a lunatic who, of course, his social media posts have since come out regarding that as well. So
I love how
Friday,
every killer always has social media posts. It's really strange, isn't it? None of them has ever like been lay low or seen some shit. No. They all post the shit that they talk about fucking constantly.
Well, they tend to be
It's
crazy.
weird, that isn't it? Yeah.
Well, they tend to be crazy. Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
You'd think if someone were actually going out and planning this sort of thing, they would wipe everything right to make it as difficult as possible to piece together why they did it and all of that.
Well, usually,
it's very strange.
If they're doing a political attack, though, typically they want people to know what their rationale was.
That's true.
When the rationale doesn't align with whatever is politically acceptable at the time, for example, the Tranifestos multiple, how many years it took for those to be released, because it was not politically expedient for it to be full of "I hate Christians" and white people and straight people, which, at least in the case of the one Christian school shooting, that was the case in particular. But going back to this, federal judge in Boston on Friday temporarily blocked the U.S. Department of Homeland Security from revoking a foreign student enrollment ahead of a Thursday hearing. During a brief hearing on Tuesday, a U.S. Department of Justice lawyer said the administration is complying with that order and was weighing its options. Even so, the Trump administration has ordered its missions abroad to stop scheduling new appointments for student and exchange visitor visa applicants. Several hundred demonstrators, including Harvard students and teachers, gathered at the university on Tuesday to show support for foreign students and to protest Trump's funding cuts. Let's see.
It's rather interesting, this entire thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we get the idea, because there's some more stuff I want to get into rather than the story itself.
The reason I find this quite interesting, though, is that I'm always want to say that politics is not downstream from culture. Culture is downstream from power. And like this is one of the organs of propaganda of the United States. So when the organ just says like this, or when the head of the organ, so to speak, just says this organ is no longer necessary or needs to be punched in the face, essentially, the organ starts to scream, which is what we see here.
Well, that's Curtis. That's been what Curtis Yarvin has been saying.
Yes, driving a tank through Harvard Yard.
Right, is that Harvard is a source of institutional power.
Yes.
And that institutional power
needs to
disseminates the culture, disseminates the belief systems that people carry with them.
I actually think this is a quite a good thing, because attacking these sorts of institutions financially is how you actually hurt them. You can do all of the politicking in the world, but at the end of the day, I think that hard capital tends to have an inarguable effect on people. And 100 million is not exactly a small amount. And it's been a long time coming. I mean, I imagine Trump was probably pretty keen to do this to them just because they've been a nuisance to him, and he's very much motivated by punishing people who have been a personal inconvenience to him. But the fact that it's also Harvard and it's got such a corrupting effect on the world is like a double whammy.
Indeed. And it is a totally corrupt institution. And yeah, so this is just 100 billion on top. This is 100 billion, or not 100 billion, excuse me, 100 million in federal spending. That is on top of the 3 billion that's already been cut in grants. So yes, I agree that you should hit them in the finances, because that is clearly where it hurts. Complaining about it has not changed anything. To put it into the context of what Harvard's been up to, for example, just in the last couple of years, last year or the year before that, they had to essentially fire, of course she resigned in disgrace, the president of the university, because she was a serial plagiarist, Claudine Gay. Her entire CV was comprised of something like, I don't know, 30-something, maybe 20-something papers, and there were major plagiarism issues found in almost every single one of her published papers. Astonishing in the first place that someone with that few papers on their CV would have ever even made it to the rank of president of the most esteemed institution of academics in the United States. But, you know, and it was all sort of grievance study stuff that she was studying. I have a video where I went over every paper that she had published, because it was that few of them. I think it might have been something like 19. It may not even have reached
Some of them
20.
were so poorly written as well.
Yeah.
Just taking the arguments aside and ignoring that, because of course those weren't exactly great. But just the quality of the academia, I was just like, wow, if I submitted this as a student, I would have been ashamed.
I know. it was astonishing. And that woman was president of Harvard at the same time. Also, still employed at Harvard because he had tenure and can't be fired, is Dr. Roland G. Fryer, who a graduate student years ago, like back in I think 2017, made a claim that he was inappropriate, and all the text messages were sent between them were posted. I think largely by the student herself making these claims, and it was clearly that they were having some kind of mutual tryst. Of course, there's a power dynamic issue there. But one of the things that Roland Fryer's work really looked into was the idea of infinite gibs to underprivileged communities in the US and how they don't work. And it is pointless to give infinite money to keep funding something that has been illustrated, demonstrably so, to not improve the outcomes for the students that go through the public school system in the United States. Black man, that was not something that the faculty at Harvard liked very much.
You are not allowed to upset the democratic plantation, good sir.
Well, I'm sure he's a leftist. I'm sure he is. But
no, he isn't.
He's also a Roland Fryer?
Yeah, I don't think he is.
From the things that I've heard him say, I don't really get that. I mean, probably a leftist from our perspective. Or
Liberal, maybe. Leftist,
Liberal,
no.
Sure.
I mean, you can't be against state gibs and be a leftist. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, you can, I suppose, if you're more than political, if you care about statistics and mathematics, which he appears to.
You can't care about statistics and math and be a lefty. Otherwise, you end up like Pac-Man.
True. Yeah.
That reminds me of something. There was a former Czech prime minister, I think, or president, that just categorized random things as either left-wing or right-wing. Like, cats are right-wing, dogs are left-wing, sandwiches are right-wing.
I think
data is right-wing.
I recall this, or something similar to it. I mean, certainly to a well, we've seen James Lindsay doing that recently with categorizing Arby's as woke right, which is pretty funny.
Josh, have
so
you been paying
I
attention
didn't
to
get all of
James's?
that.
Have you been paying attention to James's meltdown?
Some of it.
Okay, because his
I'm
meltdown
sort of
has
just
been
a bit
really, really
confused.
funny. It's always everyone who watches his Twitter feed.
Yeah,
so
everyone's
it's not
confused.
just you. It's very fascinating. There was a very long Twitter feed by someone explaining the current state of the World War II order through Lindsay's meltdown. It was very good, actually. It's quite lengthy, but I'm actually going to read it for one of my videos, just because I thought it was very good and I want people to hear it because it was well written. And it was basically, to give a TLDR, it's the fear of Nazi power that is driving this. It's not anything else. Because every other group, no one cares if they spring up because no one is terrified of them taking over. But the moment the German says, like, we have enough of this, like, oh, shit, people get scared. Because...
Well, white people, more broadly.
Yeah, because the reason is because we're objectively better than everybody else and everyone wants to come to us. And the moment that we say, no, fuck off, we're going to isolate from the rest of you, everyone else is screwed.
Yeah, and until it becomes obvious that saying otherwise is not a winning strategy, and then you have to quickly reverse course on everything that you've been saying for years.
Yeah. Except I don't have to because I've not been saying otherwise. I've been consistent this whole damn time.
Obviously, yeah. Just talking about the Starmer's pivots over the last week or so.
Oh, which is
very
just
opportunistic, isn't it?
Very.
It sure seems like it. Luckily, it doesn't appear to be working in the way it's intended to, as I have some new polling on that just came out this last week.
Well, people aren't stupid. Then
Yeah.
when he's taking the knee for Black Lives Matter and then he's saying, like, we're going to deport them all, no one's going to believe him. People don't even believe Nigel Farage. We're well past that.
Right,
well,
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Some people anyway. They're still doing pretty well in the polls.
Yeah.
True.
It's one of the reasons I can't stand democracy is because, like, anyone who actually is frame broken away from it, essentially, who sees the regime behave, my God, it becomes painfully obvious what the regime is up to. And when you see other people get involved, I'm dangerously close to saying, do you think democracy is real? If the answer is yes, like, I don't want to talk to those people. Like, my tolerance for brain damage is very low at this point.
By real, you mean functioning as people believe
Intended.
it does.
Yes, as theorized.
Oh, I think it functions as it functions as intended, just not in the way that
well, functions as intended for how
believes
the
it
masses, yes. Because I can't believe you like a society where you like how people get elected, but you hate everyone that is elected. That makes no sense.
Well, that way you vote harder next time.
Yeah, and that's just a loop.
Yes. That is the
Yeah,
problem with it.
there you go.
So also facing Harvard, this has all been in the last week. Star Harvard business professor stripped of tenure, fired for manipulating data studies on dishonesty, which is in the
It's
studies
hilariously
that she was
ironic.
conducting were on
Oh, so he
dishonesty.
was actually studying
Oh,
dishonesty.
she, of
Oh,
course.
she. Oh,
That's a woman.
not always clear these days.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
The
Francesca
schnoz on
Gino.
that one makes me pressing X to doubt.
Gino, she's Italian.
Yes.
I
There's
stand
an
by
old
my
Family Guy
statement.
joke about that, I think.
Renowned Harvard University professor was stripped of her tenure and fired after an investigation found she fabricated data on multiple studies focused on dishonesty. To be clear about what data fabrication or manipulation are, if you have to go through, I'd say kind of down the list, and I was reading about this recently, a librarian, like master's doctoral level librarian who studies this kind of stuff, Elizabeth Beek, she was categorizing, we were putting her own categories on the
Say that
severity.
again. What was her name?
Beak, B-I-K, like the pen. What? What's so funny?
Considering the schnoz, the one you're just looking at right now, it's just
Oh!
it's all come full circle. That's the reason why it's funny.
There you go. I didn't even get that. Okay,
Yeah.
not her.
So
different woman.
I'm childish, but it still amuses me.
Nothing
that
but the
was-
most highbrow commentary here.
of
Yeah, there
course.
we go.
But the categorization, though, was her beliefs about the severity of a research ethical violation. And I think, there are honest mistakes that do happen. There are things that can be corrected. And then once you get into data manipulation, where let's say you highlight something or you sort of, let's not really talk about those data. Maybe you can find it in one of the supplementary graphs. It's not mentioned. It's not in any of the main graphs. Even if it's something that seriously, contradicts the main point of your study. This is obvious manipulation of data. That's far more severe. And then, of course, the most severe is data fabrication, which is that you don't have anything to back it up, or you have something that's maybe leaning in that direction, but statistically it's not reaching significance. So you just outright fabricate it. Data fabrication, therefore, is, pretty much the worst crime you can do in terms of faking shit in academia. Just straight up.
Do you know which kind she did?
I've not.
Because it makes a big difference. Some
It
of them
does.
are obviously much more severe than others.
And I don't. This was just sent to me. I've been meaning to cover it, and I'll probably go read most of her papers as I did with Claudine Gay. So let's see, actually, if it gives us any more details on this. It did not detail the professor's firing or tenure being stripped. Harvard did not, citing it as a personnel matter, but told GBH News that the school had not revoked the professor's tenure in decades, and that part is true. So and again, like I mentioned, Dr. Roland Fryer, despite all of the Me Too attempted allegations against him, and despite the fact that his findings in the social sciences are not convenient to a lot of left-wing narratives, he did not lose his tenure. In fact, that's why they couldn't fire him. Claudine Gay would have been allowed to stay on at Harvard as a professor, and I believe she did stay on as a professor. She just stepped down from her role as president. So to revoke tenure, whatever this was, had to have been very significant. Not one professor has had their tenure revoked at Harvard since 1940. The Post reached out to Harvard for comment. Star Ivy League professor, who had authored over 140 scholarly papers and snagged numerous awards, came under scrutiny in 2023 when a trio of behavioral scientists published a series of blog posts on data collada. I should have read this already. With evidence accusing 4 of her papers published between 2012 and 2020 she had co-authored contained fraudulent data. What's up? If they have any examples of it. I'll have to read through this. Data anomaly, out of order observations. Suspicious rows show huge effect size. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that looks doctored. There's no...
This one
Yeah.
does.
That's far too orderly, isn't it? Depending on what's being
It
measured.
appears to be copied and pasted, yeah. Which I have seen quite a lot of. It's all the thing about this too is that when I've come across issues of data manipulation like this, they're almost always done in the sloppiest way because I guess they expect the peer reviewers to not expect it, so they don't look for something even so obvious and sloppy as just copy and pasted rows. Which the one I was looking at recently was PCR tests, where they were just completely sloppily photoshopped together. Let's see. Yeah, I'll have to go through this in detail, but
So it looks like they're speculating that the original data has been moved around to increase
yes,
effect sizes by the looks of it.
for this one, yeah.
Mm.
I'll have to go through this in detail, but this is the this data Colada link has it. Preliminary investigation into Juno's work by Harvard was launched in October of 2021, following concerns about a study she co-authored that claimed requiring individuals to sign an honesty pledge at the bottom of a form rather than at the end. The bottom of a form significantly boosts honest responses. At the bottom of it probably means, I think that was over here though, that it's just at the bottom of every page or the first page. Sign up at the top or sign up. Okay, thanks, New York Post. You actually stated this incorrectly. Okay,
This
at the
is
top
like the
rather than the
iron
bottom.
law. This is the iron law of journalists can never report on science properly. Even when they're making mistakes in the sciences, they're still getting it wrong.
And even when they linked to the other article that had it, oh no, hang on, I might have to relaunch because it seems that my browser just crashed. Oh, no, there it goes. Sometimes it does this. It's Brave, which my browser I'm using. Yeah, so it's whether it's not it's at the top or bottom of the form. But again, they link to this right here and then didn't bother to check the accuracy of what they were saying. That's fine.
Some more irony.
I know, isn't it? Retracted in 2021 due to evidence of data fabrication, which relied on 3 separate lab experiments to support its findings. Why would you need to fake this? This is such a simple study to conduct. I mean, I've done stuff like this in grad school, not even in undergraduate. We did a study somewhat like this on altruism.
You could even look at studies into memory, and if you're presented with a list, the items at the beginning and the end are the most likely to be remembered, and those in the middle aren't. I'd imagine there'd be a comparable effect asking people to sign something at the beginning or end, right? Rather than in the middle.
Well, I can already tell you what most likely the result would be based on the available data, that's primacy versus recency effect. And the evidence such on the 2 effects shows that the far more robust and consistent findings are for the primacy effect, so whatever you've done first. So if you had to sign your name in the beginning, if that did play a role, it would probably be the thing if you do it first rather than at the end. But there is evidence for recency bias as well, so either one could be the case. I would bet, if I was betting on which direction the hypothesis would go for that, it would be in the direction of the signing the name first would increase honesty. Because then you've also signed it, so now your name is attached to everything subsequently rather than putting it at the end as sort of an afterthought. Particularly because then you've been sitting there answering questions for 15 minutes and probably just want to get out, I would think. There's a number of reasons that might be the case.
That makes perfect sense.
But it's also such a simple experiment to run. This again takes 15 minutes per student.
It's not even
whatever.
Resource intensive either, and it would be easy to write up, analyze. It's so simple. There's no need to cheat here.
Unless she didn't get what she wanted, which would have to be the reason to do it. Because if you didn't find anything here, if you find the opposite of what you're expecting to find, then that's interesting in and of itself scientifically. If you find no relationship, well, that can be interesting. It's unlikely to get published, but that can be interesting if there's no effect whatsoever, and it adds to the totality of the literature on things like order of questions. Although again, that's so elementary of a study to even run. I'm sure something similar has been done before, but okay.
I think there's also a problem with her mindset about the research. One of the best things a university professor ever said to me was that a result that disproves your own hypothesis is actually far more exciting than one that does.
Absolutely.
Because, of course, it means there's more to the phenomenon, and therefore there's more to learn.
And it means that the suppositions that you had going into it, which would be based on extant research, would be based on extant literature, that there was something that would have, there were a number of things that led you to formulating the hypothesis in that direction in the first place. And if that ends up being not the case and not what you find in the data, that is far more interesting. So being wrong, because you have every reason to believe that would be how things would pan out. So I don't know. I guess maybe the only reason I could imagine wanting to fabricate data in such a simple case is because you just didn't get what you wanted.
I think it always ties into ego in 2 different ways, in the sense of you get very attached to an idea and then you prioritize its promotion over objective reality. And secondly, people don't like publicly admitting that they're wrong.
I mean, they don't. But at the same time, the way that retractions work in academia, it's such a slap on the wrist in many cases. They probably would have let her just. I mean, if she had submitted this in error, which appears to not be the case, anyone's claiming this was manipulated data. Most journals at this point will just let you update it. Just the authors themselves can submit it to a journal, say, oh, I've made an error, and fix it. And there's a little notification that will go up on the page, and that's it. Just something has been updated. However,
Well, they're
it's data manipulation, you know. Go
sorry.
ahead.
They're just as on the hook as the researcher is, though, aren't they? Because they've published it under their name, and therefore it's just as much their credibility as, say, hers.
In theory, however, I'm not even sure if that's how it operates in practice, because having gone through not just this Raoul guy's papers recently, but just they're excluding him because he's had about 500 papers retracted, some of which are about COVID. But in total, the counting number, at least according to Retraction Watch, is 560 papers have been retracted regarding COVID. And, for example, I think 19 of those 560 were one guy rambling about Star Trek. So, I mean, and then of course the journal has, in a special edition of a journal, I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head. Oh no, that was soft computing. There were several journals that also had a bunch of people submit essentially nonsense papers that they slapped together because there were special issues that were being run on COVID, and everyone wanted to publish about COVID as it was, you know, the
hot issue
topic of the day.
Yeah.
Right. So everyone was in a rush to get anything about COVID published, and the journals were eating it all up. Anything and everything about COVID, you know, methodologies be damned. What mattered is, oh, we have another special issue on COVID, and this will get people to actually read our magazine, essentially. I mean, just journals are. I think they get actually less on the hook than individual scholars at this point. It's almost expected that journals will make mistakes, which shouldn't be accepted, but I feel like that might be part of the case. And
they're supposed to be
either, though. Yeah, sorry.
They're supposed to be the institution that selects the quality.
Yes.
They're the people that you want. You know, you could have Harvard as it is today, but as long as the journals are good and they don't publish their spurious papers, it wouldn't actually matter that much. But I think in many ways they're the ones that amplify this bad research to the world. So it's more important in many ways.
Oh, it absolutely is more important. However, I think the way it works in practice, and perhaps it's because, generally speaking, you know who the editors are on a journal, but you won't know who necessarily the author won't know who peer reviewed it at first, of course, otherwise it wouldn't be peer reviewed, it wouldn't be blind peer reviewed. It does seem that editors a lot of times do not catch the flack in practice in the way that they should for allowing nonsense to happen at their journals. And maybe it's just also easier heuristically to place the blame when you have a face to place to it so easily. Of this author or this scholar, you know, made all of these mistakes, like with this woman's face.
Well, it's their name attached, isn't it? It's a lot
right.
easier to frame it that way.
Versus someone who looks at hundreds of papers at a time and you can say, well, they made a mistake. I agree with you. I don't think that should be the case. But either heuristically or just normatively, it seems that the journals get away with a lot more than individual scholars do. And really, they should all be held to higher standards because it's ridiculous. Again, 560 papers on COVID, not counting Didier Raoult, who's had over 500 papers retracted. Some of which were about COVID. Some of which were not. Let's see. Full probe into the allegations was conducted in 2022 and 23, where Gino and people who worked with her on the papers were interviewed, with faculty at the Harvard Business School also reviewing and analyzing her data, emails, and paper manuscripts. Outside forensics firm was also hired to analyze her study's data. When asked about the issues with her work, Gino asserted that issues with her work may stem from errors by her research assistants or potential tampering by someone with malicious intentions, according to the university report. It was the research assistants, was it? It just can't even take accountability. If it's data manipulation, how could it, and then to blame that on research assistants, that could potentially screw up those people's careers by trying to throw the blame on them.
Does that also mean that they were the ones doing the actual work?
Well, that is very often the case, the way things work in practice.
Or even Thomas
graduate
Sowell
students do
said that
the front
in
work.
one of his interviews with Peter Robinson.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, how do you know all this? And he said, because of my research assistants.
Right.
It was kind of funny.
It's
Yeah.
That's just vile, though, to try and say no, I didn't do it. My research assistants must have made the error. So rather than her taking responsibility for again messing up very simple stuff,
It's women. They
Yeah,
don't take
just throw it.
accountability in any way, never
Oh,
mind academically.
right, well, academically or not, or potential tampering by whom for what reason. However, investigators rejected both theories and provided findings to HBS Dean Datar in March of 2023. The Ivy League school placed her on unpaid leave and began termination proceedings. It must be really severe to have fired her and stripped her of tenure. But I'll have to, I mean, or something else is going on. Maybe just because Harvard is under so much scrutiny right now, and has been since around 2023 or so. Yeah, was that when the free?
You're suggesting she's collateral damage.
When was October 7th? Was that 2023 or 2024? It had to have been 2023. So it would make sense that around that time. Yeah, well, and it was in March.
Has it been a year?
I think it must have been. Yeah, I think it must have been.
Damn.
23, yeah.
Either way,
damn.
yeah, it was in March, but that might have been. This was after that Claudine Gay had to step down, though, I believe. Or no, it was at the same time. I think it was like concurrent. So Harvard was already under a lot of scrutiny. Of course, Trump wasn't back in yet, but if anyone was reading the tea leaves on that, it was obvious he was coming back in. I know they convinced themselves
A
otherwise.
black woman named
maybe...
Gay running Harvard. Like, how did no one meme that more often?
Well, I did. I mean, I certainly made quite a few jokes at her expense. But,
We did the same.
Deserved,
Yeah, well, she did deserve it. She's awful.
Yeah.
There's one thing I know for sure, she said. I did not commit academic fraud. I did not manipulate data to produce a particular result, she wrote. Sure thing, Jan. I did not falsify data to booster any result. I did not commit the offense I'm accused of, period. Gina, whose behavioral research studies relate to lying, cheating, and dishonesty, received widespread media coverage over the past decade, filed a $25 million lawsuit against Harvard Business School Dean Strykant Datar, and the Data Colada bloggers.
Yes.
In court filings,
Very
Gino
European
claimed
name, that.
reputational yes. Claimed reputational damage along with a loss of income and career opportunities due to the school's investigation and decision to place her on administrative leave beginning in June 2023. I mean, of course, the intense irony here is that she was studying lying and deception, cheating and dishonesty.
There is a sort of question here of your choice of research topic does reflect on who you are as a person. And I can't help but feel like maybe she was interested in those sorts of things because it was a personal interest to her.
Good point. I've always, there's a very, I'm sure you're aware of this, that there is a strong dearth of research on what I would call light side topics of how do we improve, what things improve people's lives, what kind of things make people happier. It's always, how does, XYZ variable negatively affect people? How is this harmful? And from an evolutionary perspective, it of course makes sense why avoiding harm and danger is of more interest to us. It's the same reason why
it's sort of like prospect theory, isn't it? That equivalent losses are twice as emotionally significant as their equivalent gains.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think there is a tendency towards negativity in research, essentially.
Okay,
Positivity is not as interesting.
It's the same as the news, really, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
It sells.
Yeah. Okay, so
right.
if that's the case,
important.
then I need to do a future video on the economic prowess of the Third Reich.
Well, I mean, it would be more likely to get clicks. I don't know how long it'd hold up for. How long it'd stay up.
I did make a point recently based on something that James Lindsay said, because I just couldn't quite square this point that he was making. He was speaking about the German mythos of the Aryan Superman being false. And I said, well, hang on a minute, James. I don't mean to be funny, but would you care to take a look at the conditions of Weimar Republic to the Third Reich? Because I'd like you
No,
to
you
explain
wouldn't.
to me if the Aryan Superman myth is not true and socialism is complete shit, how the hell did the Germans go from destitute and downtrodden to, holy sweet Jesus Christ, they're going to take over the entire world in less than 10 years?
I mean, I'd like to hear your argument because it is a good question.
Yes, that's kind of my thing. So either the Aryan super myth is real or it isn't, and the Germans are fucking insane to accomplish all of that with socialism around their necks.
Oh, they are a bit insane at times.
Yeah, but like you can't tell me the Germans are not an impressive group of people. I mean, you just look at them and look at their societies and what they've done. They're impressive
Getting a
whether you
little
like
gay
it
for
or
the
not.
Germans, are you?
Well, like, but this thing is like I made like a chart of someone asked me like what do you define European as, and I just went like a top down list of what I think would be the best traits for
Yeah, you gave a
everyone
tier
in.
list.
Yeah, of like of what Europe's not like ranking them in terms of what's best, but rather what they are individually as a nation known as. So I went for like Germans engineering, French ostentatiousness, Italian artistry,
Sure.
English their diplomacy, the Dutch the farming because it's insane, and the Russians endurance.
What about the Austrians, dude?
Oh, intellectual prowess.
There you go.
And their pastries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I went
yes.
to the Spanish. I went their passions.
I just had a.
Yeah, I thought that's a
yeah,
fairly
what would it be called?
fairly accurate take
Pastry the other
of
day.
some of the best of Europe.
Yeah, for the most part. And I agree with you on the Austrians. That's the one I really wanted the answer to from you.
Yeah.
So, this
Oh, well,
woman,
I could have gone with prowess for demolishing central banking.
There you go too. So yeah, looks like she's been kicked from Harvard. I will have to dig into this more in terms of this Data Colada article, but it. Oh, how could you possibly mess this up? How could you make mistakes on something so simple?
It's
I
called
think-
data colada. When she's drunk and
Yeah.
probably writing it.
Probably. And then this happened also last week at Harvard. Harvard scientists charged after allegedly trying to smuggle biological material into the U.S. A Harvard scientist from Russia has allegedly run afoul of the law. I'm not going to pronounce that. Petrova, a 31-year-old Russian citizen, has been charged with one count of smuggling goods into the U.S., according to U.S. State's Attorney's Office, District of Massachusetts. Specifically,
Fetal stem
Petrova
cells?
is accused of trying to smuggle biological material into the country. The material included clawed frog embryos and embryonic samples. So it was from frogs, trying to turn the frogs gay once again.
I think she wasn't trying to
But
turn them
still-
straight.
She was trying to turn the frogs straight.
Maybe it
Undo
actually
the
was.
damage. Dude, I'm not. Who knows? But obviously, you have to have this stuff filed if you're going to bring in biological materials like this into the country.
I'm surprised no one has addressed the elephant in the room here, that there are frogs with claws. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know there were
That sounds
frogs with
terrifying.
clawed frog embryos. Yeah. I suppose so. But let's see. Upon her arrival, Petrova was stopped by the Customs and Border Protection agents after law enforcement canine allegedly alerted its handler to the defendant's checked duffel bag. So she just kept them in her bag. Frogs. The dogs were alerted.
Very well trained
No.
dog. They
Yeah,
trained it for
I was
frog
thinking the same
embryos.
thing.
How did they train? Yeah, how did they train it to sniff for frogs? And why?
Or what scent do the frogs give off that the sniffer dogs can finger, essentially?
I have no idea.
I'm more curious about that now than the entire rest of the story.
There. And
That is legitimately a question
Bag.
I'm actually curious at. How the hell...
Yeah.
But
Why
surely
those
that's just
items?
a
Yeah.
dog thing, right? If you've ever had a pet dog, they will smell out other animals and will, whenever they go
Right.
for bushes and you don't know what's in there, it's like, oh, there's an animal in there, okay. So
like,
it's
what did
probably
you-
just that. It's,
what did
it's
you
not training,
contain it
it's
in?
just their biology, isn't it?
Weird.
All biological products require a permit for entry and require the individual make a declaration at the Customs and Border Protection at port of first arrival. The
So she
office
could have
added
just
that
filled in some
Petrova
fucking
initially lied.
paperwork.
I guess not. In which case, why didn't you?
I mean, I don't carry around frog fetuses and embryos and whatever. And even I know that you're supposed to do that. You think that
Yeah.
if this were your line of work, you would probably do the very minimal work it is to fill in a form, just like I'm a scientist. That's why I've got all of this weird frog stuff in my bag.
Yeah.
Well, having gone
She claimed
through
under
the
oath that she was unaware that they needed to be declared, and after lying about having them in the first place, someone planted the frogs on you.
It is the Americans, and having gone through their customs firsthand, I consider that they are very full of shit when it comes to their rules and regulations. I mean, I was denied entry into the United States because
You're naughty.
no, it's because I had a CV paper in my bag because a friend of mine said, while you're here, go to this gym, they're looking for a trainer. And I thought like, well, okay, well, I'll just like give the CV there. And I didn't think anything of it because I wasn't going to stay there, like overstay my visa, because that's breaking the law. And I didn't think of that, obviously, going to the fucking customs. And so when they asked me about this, I just told them, like, well, here's a situation. You went through my fucking messages, which I'm pretty sure is a violation of my fucking rights, but whatever. And they said to me, well,
you don't have rights. It was a,
yeah, but okay, so
a foreigner,
here,
and a white foreigner, excuse me.
They said to me that I can't come.
Oh,
they said to me that I can't come in, and the justification for it, like, it's not illegal to do that. That's fine, but the fact that I didn't tell them that was illegal.
Oh, well, yeah. Because then
Which
you've not told the truth.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right,
However,
so
that would be a thing that could slip your mind, I'd feel like, more than carrying around biological materials of frog embryos.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's how fucking shitty they are. So I'm like, so I'm not allowed entry for an activity you deem legal.
Apparently.
That makes no
you
fucking
didn't end
sense.
up going to prison for 20 years or facing a fine of up to $250,000, which is what this woman's facing.
Oof.
Seems like a bit much, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It's very excessive.
But another Harvard scientist. Same
And,
week-
and she's from Russia, so that makes Trump look kind of like anti-Russian now, which apparently is what he needs.
Yeah. So here's, of course, David French on MSNBC.
I
President
thought that was
Trump's
Andrew
efforts to
Klavan
hold
for a
Harvard
second.
Oh. Yeah, okay, I can kind of see it.
He's
Hold
been
Harvard
moonlighting
accountable.
for a while.
Yeah.
So, of course, the seething has begun.
Well,
Well,
again,
the seething never stops, I guess.
this is political retaliation. I mean, look,
Really?
there are good reasons to fund trade schools, but one of the reasons, one of those good reasons is not to punish other academic institutions.
Why should Harvard be rewarded to the tune of $3 billion in federal grants yearly?
Good question.
What?
So
They exist to train
fund trade
Democratic
schools on
voters.
their own
Well, sure.
merit, fund Harvard on its own merit. But there's one thing I think we really need to drill down on. What the administration has done a very good job of selling, at least part of the public on, is this idea that they're holding Harvard accountable for anti-Semitism, that they're the ones taking action to hold Harvard accountable for anti-Semitism.
Well, this is the way it's going to be framed because of the broader political gestalt, right? Is that this is all about anti-Semitism. When, as I've just pointed out, in these two things from the last week, the story from last year, the year before, about Claudine Gay being ousted for serial plagiarism, about what Harvard did to Roland Fryer, and these are just a select few examples. It couldn't possibly be that there is something deeply wrong in this institution that goes beyond Israel-Palestine. Not just Harvard, but Harvard, which is emblematic of academia, at least in the United States.
Why does the world give, especially the Western world, give such a massive shit about two places I guarantee you 90% of the fuckers who scream about this wouldn't be able to point to on a map?
Because it's current thing.
Yeah, but
That is the current thing.
I don't give a shit.
Well, how
It's
can you
also
not give
the
a
sort
shit?
of
Current thing?
brand of their name, isn't it? Stupid people like branding.
Yes.
Where they
and
walk around with T-shirts with big logos on.
And what do they do? You know, they go on Twitter, they put the little flags in their bio. It's a part of social identity theory, which is the
Does
use
the
of
band logo
symbols.
count as one?
Yes. Well, it would. It can. Absolutely.
Aw. Okay, well, I'm currently wearing
Is
one,
any
so
kind
I'm,
of-
so I
T-shirts
suppose I'm
are
not the band
okay.
people. Okay, thanks, Josh.
It's all right. I own several.
Well, why do you wear a band T-shirt?
Because I
I
like
mean,
the
besides
logo.
that, it's cool. You like the band, you like the logo, but there may also be a part of that, intentional or not. That is, wouldn't it be cool if someone recognized the band shirt that I'm wearing, and then we would have something to communicate over?
I mean, a woman literally got my attention by doing that, so yeah.
See?
Yes. She was very pretty.
It's
Give me a break.
well, it's signaling that we have it's signaling to other people that you have something in common.
No, it was deliberately signaled to get my attention. That was she openly told me this.
Oh. Oh, you mean a girl bought a band T-shirt in order to impress you?
I think she had one already. I think she just, when she knew that that was my band, she just wore it deliberately to get my attention.
Okay, well that's a little different too.
It worked, so
Only slightly. There you go.
It is very important to note that there are ways to hold Harvard accountable. And in fact, there is
Like
a
what?
lawsuit working its way through the federal system right now holding Harvard accountable for anti-Semitism on campus after October 7th. But there are specific legal processes for this. It is not
This is exactly what you said, Josh. Look at how they are seething and how irate he is that no, not the money. Go take it to the legal system and drag it to the courts for 10 years.
where fuck all will happen.
Right. Whereas just removing the funding, and this is particularly because Harvard has ignored Trump specifically telling them to stop allowing the anti-Israel protests, whatever you want to call it, told them to stop doing that. They continued to do it, and they spit in his face over it. So how would you expect anything else? Why would you be given this long time frame to do things in this legalistic process rather than just cutting your funding from the federal government, which you
Much faster.
disrespect? Yeah.
And he
simply the
currently is
case that the
federal government.
administration can decide. Well, we saw anti-Semitism in, say, the Middle East Studies Department. Now we're going to defund pediatric cancer research. That's not
Well, the problem is the institution. If the institution fixes itself, then maybe you will get the money back. But as long as Harvard is a breeding ground for political
I hate
beliefs,
this, by the way.
why would you get funding?
Because this is such a slimy thing to do. Oh, what do you think of
It
the
is.
Jews? What do you think of them? Oh, fuck off.
Well, no.
Think
what
of
he
the
was trying to do there
children.
is
It's
what
just
about
like the
cancer research?
oldest. Yeah, it's the oldest bloody trick in the book. If you don't like anything, you don't like kids. It's like, oh, fuck off.
Well, I can tell you this: if the money is being cut that's of course across the board. So now there's fewer research grants or no research grants for Harvard on cancer. Guess what? All those scholars already do. Work with other scholars at other universities whose funding hasn't been cut because they work at an institution that isn't actively subversive.
Yeah, there are more places researching cancer than Harvard, and
Yes.
believe it or not,
Yes.
I don't think society's going to go, well, they've cut funding to Harvard, so I guess we're not curing cancer now.
No.
Right.
Silly.
Ridiculous conflation.
If anything,
The way the system
cutting Harvard's budget might make them forced to work harder. Like, oh, we can get one up on Harvard now their cancer fund has been damaged.
Sure. Marketplace of ideas actually functioning as intended, or as it's claimed to intend.
And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but can you lower the volume of this video? Because for once, it's actually
yeah.
loud.
Oh, sorry.
Which
It's hard
is
for me to tell.
which is very, very strange. Normally, it's like we can't hear jack shit. This is the first time ever
Yeah.
that's been too loud. So, yeah, that's new for us.
I like
actually.
wherever you pause it as well. The presenter there looks so done with it.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
she seems.
She's had the same face throughout the entire thing.
She has. Yes. I mean, I've been looking at him.
She looks like
scrutiny
she's
more, but
questioning
yeah,
her
she-
life choices, actually.
But she knows this is bullshit. I mean, anyone listening to this has to know it's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not the way this system works at all. You target the entity or the individuals within the university who are engaging in the problematic behavior. You target the departments, the programs that are engaging in the
students.
problematic behavior. There's due process. There's an opportunity to be heard. These are words we've been hearing a lot of lately, due process. That's words that Americans have probably heard more in the last 3 months than they heard in the previous 30 years.
So what?
But it's a vital American value. And essentially what he's doing is he's doing the old sentence first, verdict afterwards, where he is.
No. That we know what Harvard's been doing.
Could we just pause for a
particularly over the
moment
last couple of years.
to look at the absurdity of this particular moment, right? We have some pleb shithead journalist at the New York Times telling the chief executive how to do his job. Dude,
I mean, essentially, I don't.
Fuck
how
off.
does David French work? I forget. I mean, I'm familiar with him.
he said New York Times
Yeah,
columnist.
New York Times opinion columnist, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, who cares? In other words.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who the hell made you king of the world?
Well, he doesn't appear to have anything to add from to this, obviously, from an academic standpoint, which is Harvard has also directly violated the orders to stop the anti-Israel protesting.
Also, by the
I
way,
mean, they had.
curious word there, directly contradictory to our constitutional principles. Principles aren't fucking law. That's a very big distinction.
And the Constitution is a piece of paper at the end of the
Yes.
day.
Yes,
So-
and it can be violated by power left, right, and center. This is why Lysander Spooner said, like many years ago, whatever the Constitution is, it is either authorized the government that we've had or it's been powerless to prevent it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Wise words.
Having the holding the punishment. He's imposing punishment prior to the trial, and that is directly contradictory to our constitutional principles.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's the chief executive. That is literally within
Yes.
his power, and you can't do shit. If
Yes.
if
funny
the
how
courts
the
are there
left-
to go on, Josh.
I was just going to say, it's funny that the left pretends that the executive doesn't exist when they don't control it, and they always refer
Curious.
to the other institutions which they do, and it's so instinctual. I do wonder what is the sort of mechanism driving that, because it seems so universal that
Convenience.
and so powerful. I suppose so. Yeah.
Well, exactly. There is no truth but power, and when they
Yes.
don't have power, then everything is wrong. It's lies.
That
It's-
is.
I mean,
That is something that I actually spoke to Harry about, and I think he mentioned it when you two were also on the show. I could swear he.
Oh, really?
Yeah, is when we were talking about like the way that how the left and the right looks at how they operate. Is that the left are the ones who claim to be democratic, but when you look at them, they're actually like a very elitist and very top-down hierarchy
yes.
structure with a deference to power. Whereas the right, despite the fact that they claim to be elitist and very as such, they operate in a very disorganized fashion when everyone tries
It's
to get
the
a piece of the
libertarian
pie.
element.
Yes, they operate like libertarians, whereas the left operates like militant hierarchical fashion, which is why they actually get somewhere. They actually play the game how it's supposed to be played, whereas
Yes.
the right thinks that, oh, we should play by the rules, and that's like, no, fuck that, we're just going to play by our own fucking rules of power, and you won't, and so you'll just get beaten. And it's like, what the hell do you do with that? Like, how do you not see that? Why do you play by rules they don't?
well, it comes down
I
to
don't
yes,
care about
is it
rules,
the-
I care about winning.
all politics are power politics. The left
Yes.
gets that correct. That's why this guy is deferring to the rules and the system and the standards that, of course, he would never be holding
Might makes
to
right.
anyone if they were not on. Yes, if they were on his side, but it is exactly might makes right. The left
Yes.
follows that absolutely. The right does not because of the libertarian element.
By the
I
way,
think, and
There
that's
is
why they
a
lose.
there is a phrase there that most people mistake. When people say might makes right, it just means when I'm in power, this is. When people think might
Yes.
makes right, when they think this is bad, they think might makes morality. Like, no. That's not what it means. It just means
Yes.
when I says go because I'm the one wielding the fist. That's the difference
Yes.
between those two phrases.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's a conflation with morality there that
Yes.
causes the intentional or not misunderstanding.
Yes.
But
I would love
this
if
is-
more people understood that, because I've been constantly saying might makes right, and then people are just like, "But Josh, you've got some libertarian like inclinations." I'm just like, "Well, I'm also a realist."
Right.
Yes.
As do I. I also have a libertarian leaning inclinations. Which is a
but-
But
okay,
it's
so-
mostly
Yeah.
economic for me than political.
Yes. Yes.
I would say here's an interesting way to frame it, though. Ask these people if they can distinguish between free to and free from.
No. Almost never. Positive
Yes.
versus negative liberty appears to be something that most
Yes,
people
but
can't
the
quite
interesting thing is that,
grasp.
like, okay, so here's an interesting example I gave in one of my videos. I said it is entirely possible by a libertarian framework to be an Islamic theocrat and still libertarian.
Sure.
Inshallah, brother.
Yeah, but in the sense of if you take someone who is like gay living in San Francisco, he values being free to do whatever the fuck he wants because he's in San Francisco. But if you put him in Islamic Saudi Arabia, he would not be because they frown on that kind of behavior. But the Islamic gentleman who lives there and he wants to be free from homosexuality, the state will take care of that problem.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
That's a
Yes. So
association.
yes. So the sort of libertarian perspective of these are the like cornerstones of what the state should not be able to do. That is entirely contingent on what the person who believes a libertarian state should be able to do. Like you can have a state that enforces only like 3 basic laws, like no gays, no alcohol or whatever, and promiscuity is like heavily punished. And those might not be 3 heavy things that a libertarian on the Western sphere would find horrifying. But those are only just 3 things that if you're an Islamic theocrat, you would find those things actually useful to make your state as prosperous as possible via Islamic law.
Yeah.
Very
I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. continuing the subject of the absolute state of academia. This is University of Vermont professor who teaches
I guarantee he's a Bernie
economics.
fan.
Really?
Yeah, what gave it
would've
away?
given that away?
The business owner's argument seems to be you're feeding people who've done bad things. Yeah, that's fucking ridiculous. Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I've done bad things. And we all have.
A lost episode of Beavis and Butthead.
Apparently,
Beavis and
professor
Butthead
at
would march
University of
right up to
Vermont.
him and call him a dork.
Yeah, well, he is a
And they'd be
dork.
right.
Yeah, they would be.
And they're also concerned about fucking shoplifting. Okay, first of all, what I'm not gonna say in there, everybody fucking shoplifts!
No, they don't.
What?
The cheers. I know that the cheers and claps. Yeah, everybody shoplifts.
I've never
There's no
done it
one
in my
black
entire
near
life.
you, so who the hell
I
are
did
you
it
hoping
once
to get
on-
cheers from?
I
I've
don't
done
know.
it
Have you
once.
seen in the background there?
I have done it once on accident and felt terrible, but not been like gone too far away that I've from wherever it was that I couldn't really go back. I think like at an airport or something. I must have been. But I mean, normal people would be incredibly ashamed of the idea of shoplifting. No, it's not to be cheered, but I would say so.
Is going Captain Sparrow shoplifting?
Okay. Well, maybe most people would not. I don't think clap, and I don't think most people have shoplifted. Maybe, like I said,
I
maybe
have
on
once
accident
when I
or
was like
something, but-
3.
Yeah.
I'm
Feel
South African, by the
terrible
way.
for that.
I mean,
there
I-
you get
yeah.
adding to the statistics.
National pastime, yeah.
Yeah. I do
Well, at least
think
for
my
sections of the population.
yeah, a large section. I do think my mother actually took me to the shop and like I got a ass kicking for that. I think it was
See?
a chocolate bar.
Perhaps it's a lack of ass kickings.
Everybody to talk to, it's homeless people who get caught, who get blamed for it, who get blamed for the problem. But
Yeah, because like you, they're on
Yeah, because they're
drugs.
homeless.
Well, why are they homeless? They're homeless because they choose to be
'Cause
homeless.
they have no
because
homes.
They can. No, they choose to be homeless because there are shelters that will take them in, but they have to get off drugs. And actually, I don't know about Vermont, but if they were in California or Seattle, there's lots of shelters there that don't even require them to be clean. They'll take them and let them shoot up heroin.
oh my god, I teach a UVM class to 137 students about the economy, and I was asking how people get things that they don't pay for because we're going to talk about non-market
like
economy,
Adam's
and one student in front of
homosexual
137 others
Oh God, yeah, a little bit. Yes.
No offense, Adam.
Well, again, no, but that's drugs,
said, I shoplift things.
Wow.
To be fair, when you look like that, I'm not
Forming
exactly
future
surprised.
minds. But this is
You could
just
do
the
a
state-
shoplifting. You could do a shoplifting some better clothes, couldn't he?
Yeah.
Well,
you
yeah,
would
you
think.
think
Yeah.
so.
University
hobo.
professor at. Yeah, he does.
By the way, this is the kind of stuff that makes me think like conscription is necessary.
Perhaps. On the
I'd say
other
that.
side, I think, yeah, of
Like definitely
making
like an element of like
academics look bad.
discipline
itself.
is
And that helps.
necessary. This is definitely going to get us copyright struck, by the way.
Oh, will it? Will it?
Yes, Jubilee is fucking
Oh,
notorious
it is
for
then.
that.
Okay, never mind then. Jordan Peterson got owned.
You can maybe
He
get
was
okay
brought in-
because I did like 3 minutes out of an hour video and I had to
It's
clip
this
a
guy.
whole bunch of shit.
It's this guy who he talks to, where it starts. Do you want to skip this then? Because Jubilee, I forgot that they were so litigious with it. It's
Do you
this
have a-
guy he's
do you have a
talking to.
Twitter post of it maybe?
Let me go get it on Twitter then. I hate that I
Yeah.
have to do that, but
The thing I haven't actually seen this yet, but one thing that did interest me about this is Jordan Peterson denied being Christian, even
Yes.
though it's my understanding that he's been very Christian for some time, unless I misunderstood what he said or something.
By the way,
But it seemed like a strange U-turn.
yes,
No, he did say
notice
as much
notice
from
what
the
the
clips I
title of
saw.
it is now.
what is it now? Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheists.
Before it was a Christian versus an atheist, and that's why someone said to him like, "Are you a Christian?" And he didn't actually answer directly. It's because he's not really Christian, but he has
Yeah,
no
here it
problem
is.
using the Christian aesthetic to
Sure.
essentially preach kindness
To
and lukewarm
preach and
limperousness.
Well, there's that too. And
He
it's also
so
to
basically,
infiltrate and integrate with
Yeah.
the right wing. So after he
Okay.
lost his position with the left, of look, I'm one of you.
oh, okay. So
Just
let me
like
let me, let me explain this. You know that that Peppy meme that you always say, like, that's me and you, with the like, I have autism with the ice cream on the ground.
Yeah, the ice cream one, yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So as far as this is concerned, like that meme, that's him and Lindsay.
Pretty much. Which one's the retarded Pepe with the?
Lindsay's the one with the
cross ice
autist who can't hold the fucking ice cream
cream?
out.
Okay, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a pretty accurate description.
Yes.
However, Peterson completely embarrassed himself. I
By
can't
the way-
remember who put out this poll. Was it AA? I think which one's respected sort of academic leaning
Yeah.
person on the so-called right has embarrassed themselves more, and Peterson was winning that poll,
It was
which is hard to outdo Lindsay.
I was very happy because I was watching Andrew watch this, Andrew Wilson, and there was one point where they was talking, and Andrew just paused and went, "What the fuck are they talking about?" I went, "Thank God!" Like Andrew is the guy who actually is like quite heavy in
Yes.
theology, and even he's like, "What the fucking hell are these people talking about?" So thank you, Andrew, for just saying that, because I also just thought, like, what the fucking hell are these people talking? Like, who is this supposed to appeal to? Like, it's just jargon.
Other navel gazers.
Yeah. But you know what's really funny about that is I distinctly remember this, and this is why it's hilariously ironic coming from Jordan Peterson of all people. He spoke several years ago, I can't remember who it was too, but he said, be confident in your intellectual ability. Like if somebody says something, it might not be that you can't understand it because you aren't intelligent. Maybe they're just full of shit. And
Yeah.
I'm watching
That
him out
is
like,
always
it's
an
massively
option.
ironic coming from you.
Yeah. It's actually something kind of funny happened with James Lindsay regarding somewhat similar of thinking they're far smarter than they are, and they're just talking to hear themselves talk.
Yeah, that's
where,
very true.
Lindsay he was going off. He went off on Carl again because and I'm sure Orrin McIntyre was just talking about how much more of an intellectual giant he is. than
Orrin lives
everyone
rent
else.
free in James's head.
Oh, I know.
It's
I know.
great.
And I posted this meme it just said, everyone's so stupid, everyone but me. And there were a bunch of James's weird little culty fans who said, yeah, I know it's so hard, and responded earnestly to that, agreeing with the meme, and just completely flew over their heads. Yes, you are. I'm sure you are much more intelligent than everyone else is stupid. It's not you.
I
You
can't
get a
tell.
basic joke.
I can't tell if his belief is sincere or he's on drugs. So I honestly don't.
It appeals to midwits who want to feel intelligent.
No, but like his entire shtick. Like I can't make a heads or tails of
It's
it.
appealing to midwits who want to feel intelligent.
But he talks
That's why
just
he
shite.
this is everything. That's why he puts everything in that overly academic language. And
We're talking about Peterson or Lindsay here, by the way.
yes,
Both.
using overly verbose academic language makes people feel intelligent when they listen to it.
I feel like Jordan
mean,
can
that-
at least try to sound sane, whereas Lindsay deliberately tries to sound pretentious, which makes him just a
Yes.
toff.
Well, Peterson looked like he wanted to blink out of existence when Lindsay said that. What do you do when you wake up in the morning? Or what do you do before you
Yeah.
eat breakfast? You wake up.
Woke, yeah.
Right.
I will say by the end of that conversation, Jordan looked fucking exhausted.
Yeah, I would have been as well, to be
Yeah,
fair.
exactly. Because Lindsay is an idiot. I want to see him and Matt Walsh talk. Because I feel
Oh,
like
that
it
would
might
be
be the
devastating.
one time Matt Walsh might kind of snap.
That would be funny, I'm sure.
Yes.
But again, so this was pitched as Jordan Peterson, or now it's pitched as Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheists. But it was a Christian versus. However,
Yeah,
this, I
psychobabble
believe, is the
nonsense.
clip where Peterson says he's not a Christian, despite having professed to been one for the entire time I've known of him.
Clear about your definition of worship again?
Attend to, prioritize, and sacrifice for.
Okay, that's it. That's your understanding of worship.
Well, I could flesh it out, but that'll do for the time we have.
Okay, do Catholics attend to Mary?
Well, yes,
Okay, so do they fit that description of worship?
yes,
So you would say Catholics and other people that revere Mary, like the Eastern Orthodox tradition, worship Mary.
well,
No.
they might not put her in the highest
But you would
place.
put it that way.
No,
You just said
It's because he's got him kind of in, it's more of a rhetorical trap here, but unfortunately has got him on that.
It. Now you're taking it back
There's
now?
still a hierarchy.
Okay, there's a hierarchy, but within
And
the
there's something at the top.
All right, you can worship things
Mary
below.
is quite a ways up the hierarchy, but not at the top.
Let's go over your definition of worship again. What's your definition of worship?
Attend to,
Attend to. Do
prioritize, and
Catholics
sacrifice for.
do Catholics attend to? Do they prioritize Mary over all other human beings?
No, I didn't say overall, did I? I didn't
Well,
add that to my
you
definition.
understand-
I said there was a hierarchy as well.
You attend to
So you can
Catholic.
attend to something trivially, or you can attend to it deeply.
And now
there's
you're
a-
adding stuff to the definition. But your original
I
definition.
added the hierarchy part at the beginning.
Are you
just
familiar?
didn't understand it.
Are you familiar with the Immaculate Conception?
Why is that relevant?
Because you go to a Catholic church, don't you? Or you've attended recently. You're interested in Catholicism, aren't you?
Sure,
All right. Are you familiar with their doctrines?
somewhat.
Okay, you're
Their
familiar.
doctrines are
how
very
do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh dear.
Okay, you see, okay, this is the thing. Up until that point, it was fairly 50-50. I
Yeah.
didn't think like Jordan really was getting slammed by the kid. I thought he fairly held his own, to be honest.
Yeah.
But up in that point was a heavy
Well, you've
shot.
agreed that you go to a Catholic church, or you attend Catholic church, and that you're here to debate atheists as a Christian, and then I've not claimed that. It seems that in signing up to have this debate in the first place, you have. I'm not sure what this pivot is. A lot that I've seen recently. Again,
Yeah,
from Lindsay and from Peterson, and the sort of
I'm kind of glad it's
intellectual
happening
side
though.
of the right, such as it is, which is
I'm actually
to
in favor of
divest
the
themselves
kid.
from Christianity. Well, in this debate for
Yes.
ousting Peterson on this, or
Yes.
causing him to oust himself. I get
Yes,
it. Peterson
because
chose to say that.
Yeah, but I don't like the faux Christians in a Christian movement.
No, I don't appreciate that either. And
No.
it's so.
I don't like
obvious,
people that
too.
try to use Christianity for a commercial purpose. It sickens me.
Or political. Or
Yes.
was
Okay, well, okay, I
I
can't really
have
say.
that same.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I have that same impulse, and I've never really been religious. It's
think
just there's something about it that's gross, isn't there?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
it's deception. Their intent, and I mean James
And
Lindsay had
it's-
also
it's
said
something
that,
you-
that
you
he would
believe in
intentionally try to
from-
deceive Christians.
Yes, and it's apparently that was a joke, and he wrote this massive fucking
Okay,
rebuttal
sure.
to it, which is really funny because, my God, he sounds more like schizo every time. It's great, by the way. His Twitter feed
It
is
was like a 5,000 word
entertainment.
novel.
Yeah, it was insane. I went like, okay, James, you need to like whoever. If anyone is near James who listens to this, you need to remove the phone and frankly all internet connection from James. I think he needs to go and off in the woods for a while. Like give him the Hillary Clinton treatment. Send him home with some gin or some shit. Because he's not well mentally. Seriously, he's
I
fucking
genuinely
crazy.
thought that he just needs to go off of Twitter for a
Yes.
Yes.
break because he's
For like
been
a month,
in the
yes.
trenches of Twitter for too long,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just lost sight of things. But this happens to quite a few people, I think.
Yes.
To a
Yes.
lesser extent, perhaps, and less visibly.
Yes.
What
it's-
happened to Peterson? He tweets some of the most unhinged.
Benzos
stuff. And when
happened
you
to
get
Peterson is what happened to Peterson.
well, yes.
Yes, whereas James,
certainly probably
if someone told me James was spiked with something, I probably would believe him.
Behavior has been very bizarre lately.
Yes,
But I just can't believe he did that. Just
it's quite weird because you're sort of just like watching the pendulum go more and more to the right and more away from liberalism is not working, democracy is not working. We should go back to something else. And in the minds of the post World War II world, it's basically a dictator and it can't be anything else. So if you're basically like Imperial German. And you just went like, we actually used to have something before Uncle Adolf decided to like show up. It's like frame breaking to people. That's why if you say monarchy,
I
they
know.
just think dictator. Like, no. Like, no,
Well,
you can have a form of government of the rule of the one that's benevolent. It's actually been most of human history, you weirdos.
the presentism is endemic in that sense. Either
Yes.
presentism or a fixation on World War II.
Yes. An unhealthy one, to say the least.
Yeah, but I think what this is with James and with Dr. Peterson, etc., is they are desperately trying to cling into this liberal fantasy worldview version of the 90s that never existed. It's anemoic. They are having a wanderlust for a time that never really happened, where everyone just kind of got along, and that was farcical. The even belief that ever existed is farcical. So
There was,
once again, that comfortable. It's comfortable to be an atheist, but also denounce this woke stuff. But also, I don't want anything to actually. I don't actually want to conserve anything besides gay '90s liberalism.
There was a post that someone posted on the Benjamin Boyce versus it was Joel Berry versus Dave, and there was a comment there that I thought was really, really good, and it was something along the lines of the colorblind society, when he said something like, it's insane to be colorblind and everybody else has perfect vision. Like that, I thought that was fucking brilliantly phrased.
Yeah,
as well done.
Yeah, well, it is that in terms of that particular topic, we've talked about that last week, which is that colorblindness is only required from one group.
Yes.
Every other.
Here's a comment. I want to
in
conserve a
their
colorblind
preference.
society where everybody else has perfect vision. Like, that's brilliant.
Yes.
That's absolutely true.
It's also a fool's errand as well, because you can never be colorblind truly, because you're the same mechanism that makes you love your family makes you prefer your in-group. And
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
about as core to a human being as possible.
Yes, and you find it in infants.
This is
immediately, you can identify this faster response to the face of people who are the same race as the child. Faster response speed times.
And this is also why Mussolini was correct, because he said there is no revolution that can change the nature of man, and that actually is an attempt at changing human nature, which is insane. This is why liberalism is a cult.
Well, I tend to agree.
You heard it here first, folks.
Did Peterson have anything? I know that I saw this before, at least this clip, but or part of this. Let's see.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either
it,
you're a
because
Christian
I won't
or you're
talk
not.
to you if you're a smartass.
Either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me.
This is awful. It has immediately turned into a decent back and forth into playground isms.
I was under the impression I was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video.
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing. Right?
I mean...
Oh, that was a nice shot. I'm not going to lie. That was...
They zoom in on this woman's face.
That kid is so annoying, though.
I know. Yeah,
Yes.
the smug satisfaction he has for... But Peterson set him up for it.
Yeah.
He did.
What a thing to say.
You kind of
when you're in the
enabled
middle
his
of an
smarminess.
atheist versus Christian debate. And you just go in and go, actually, I'm not a Christian. No, I won't go through all of this, obviously, but this is a clip from the debate that Dave had with Nathan Kofnas, which I watched the whole thing. I thought we just watched this bit of it.
Oh, yeah, I still have to watch this. Apparently, Dave was not particularly... Dave apparently got a little mad.
He was right, too, from what I've seen. This guy is just a
Dave is
absolute...
always right. That's one of his most annoying traits with people he debates up against. I've noticed him about Dave. Dave has a lot of patience, but I've noticed that Dave will slowly wiggle the more the debate goes on into one point that he's trying to zero in on, and then when he does, Dave will go for the jugular in a way that is not subtle, and it's very fun seeing people just not expect it. It's really good shit.
But this was very much in the same line as Murray's appearance recently on Rogan, which was, well, the university system, the academic elite, has lost all of its credibility, particularly after COVID.
Yes.
All of the things that we were told over and over, this is true, trust the science, it cannot be questioned. If you question the science, you will lose your job, you will be shunned, you'll be, unpersoned, essentially. Only then for it to come out a few years later, actually, we were wrong about a lot of that stuff. But don't stop trusting the science.
No kidding.
And it's the credentialists are trying to claw back that power, and they've lost so much credibility. It's going to take something pretty significant to get people to start trusting in institutions again. But Kofnas' position is heavily, essentially just, institutions good, scientists would never lie to you. And in fact, it's better if they lie with good intentions, essentially, than to be mistaken on accident.
Then why are we expecting people to trust the consensus again? If you want people to retrust the consensus, you have to purge the academy. That is step one. You can't skip that step. If Fauci is not in jail then I have no reason to trust virology.
Absolutely best. Well done,
You got
Dave.
a part.
Yeah. Why should anyone trust virologists when Fauci was put forward as the face of I am the science? And then, we found out about the Beagle experiments and all this other stuff we found out very early on, for anyone paying attention, that absolutely none of the normal protocols and procedures were being followed in the development of the COVID vaccine. Not a single one. And everyone's and now, of course, we're finding out more and more about the side effects, such as myocarditis, which people also could have predicted very early on and did, and were silenced for doing so. How could you possibly trust those institutions to not lie to you, even if they were well-intentioned lies? To not lie to you again, to take something that, in this instance, could cause, and seems to, I think we're allowed to say this stuff on YouTube now because the consensus on that is changing, and that Schmittian exception has lapsed. So, that these things are going to potentially harm people. We've looked at the effects that it's had in the ova, the total number of ova that rats possess. So that could actually have a serious effect on fertility, amongst the more obvious immediate medical issues such as myocarditis.
So he's not going to be in jail.
Well, that's very convenient. Are there people under him? Why don't you put
well,
them in
anyway,
jail?
I wrote a Substack post for Heterodox for Dorian Abbott's Substack.
9 million people are dead because of COVID. It was covered up and it was created by the medical establishment. Is anybody in jail for that? Answer, not to my knowledge. Not after all of that, there's no way I'm going to trust expert consensus or appeals to expert consensus on a politically controversial issue that is less hard than biomedical science.
And by the way, it's not as if doctors don't get put in jail for doing unethical things. So one of the things that I ended up looking up here, let's see, psychiatric hospital, I should be able to find this. Psychiatric. There was this guy's name, I just came across this.
The one, the thing
his
there?
name is Bernard Fortillion. In 2019, he conducted a relatively small and sample size experiment on new drugs, on different drugs, medical experiment on patients with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. But he never had ethical approval to do it. So he just used experimental drugs on these two vulnerable populations. This is another French scientist. He was then wanted by the police. He fled from arrest and was arrested in November of 2020. And as far as I know, he has been in a psychiatric hospital ever since. So they do imprison these people sometimes, but not over COVID. You give experimental treatments to people with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, maybe then you go to jail then. But no one involved with all of the bullshit around COVID, so far as I know, not any of the major figures and major faces, have suffered any kind of negative consequences for what they did.
I also find it very strange.
So yeah,
very strange that the whole thing is framed around trust, because trust and science are such juxtaposed terms. You're not the whole raison d'etre for science existing, and the method is that it's not taken on trust, and you're not having to follow it with faith. It's meant to be evidence based.
Yes.
Yes.
That was
So it's madness.
Of trust the science. No, science should be self-evident. Sure.
Which was Orwellian a fucking phrase. That's a religious phrase.
It is.
Yes.
It's trust and follow. It is.
Yes.
Religious.
So when everyone said follow the science, and we're like, you realize you all sound like cultists by saying that shit out loud. You were really weird.
Particularly when it comes in tandem with that messaging did of how you can't do your own research. Don't look into it because you aren't part of the anointed class. Only the anointed class can translate the holy text for you and tell you what to think.
But here's the thing. I did just trust the experts. Like, I trusted the data they put out. I didn't go look for, like, some sketchy, controversial conspiracy theory data. I looked at what they said. And I distinctly remember this. There was a post that said on Twitter, something like 94% of cases that are said that died of COVID, they didn't die of COVID. They just died with COVID because everyone, yes. Or just because like they were like struck by lightning, and the fact that they had COVID means that they were killed because shit like that. The amount of people that actually died from it was fucking minuscule.
Well, right.
At the initial
if
stages.
If they had a positive PCR test,
yes,
then
they were listed.
Any death for a period of time was listed as a COVID.
Yeah,
death.
which is insane. And
and
also,
even so, And even so, then if you look at flu deaths during the COVID years,
Yes.
suddenly you'll find that there were
But
none.
the
Or
thing
almost
that,
none.
that was just insane to me that I could not wrap my head around is if somebody came to me and said to me, there's a deadly thing going around, my first question would be, how deadly?
Yeah.
And if you tell me your chance of survival is 99.96%, because I think the chance of death from my age range and comorbidities was like 0.04%. It was minuscule.
Right.
I
Because
would
you're
just
young
go,
and in good shape. Yeah.
yes, but my immediate reaction would have been, fuck off. Like, why the hell are you closing all of the world for something that can kill no one? That makes no damn sense. That instantly makes me sketchy and think something is horribly wrong because that doesn't make any sense.
Yep. But just trust, faith, right?
I
Or
don't trust shit.
experts on the Higgs boson. Yeah, because it's not political and it's harder than virology, right? I am going to have to see an actual piece of data about the predictive effects of tariffs on a system. I am going to have to see an actual piece of data on that and an actual argument.
You will see. America has already become poorer and less powerful.
So, but he's made a definitive statement in directional
In
hypothesis.
4 months?
It's not a hypothesis. This is the case. Trust the science. I am the science. Yeah, in 4 months. Yeah, we'll see about that too.
I'd like to see
We'll
any
continue to do
American
so.
economic policy and their effects thereof in any American period in 4 months.
Or have devastating effects, positive or
They tend to
negative,
measure them
significant.
in decades, with the
Quarters.
exception of maybe.
Well,
I mean, like in terms of like historical perspective, I would say the only one that I can think of that's like horribly bad is like the 2008 crash or the Great Depression.
The problem with measuring things in quarters is that it's sort of myopic, right? Because it's more sensitive to small variations and change. Whereas if you look more longitudinally, you'll be able to see actually how things change over time. So yeah, 4 months, putting it on that kind of quarterly time span would be useful for Nathan. Because if you are going to see a negative effect or whatever, you probably would see that more immediately.
I've already seen a
than
negative
long
effect. It's
term.
called dysgenics.
So
Yeah, are we poor in the same way that in the 90s we were poor, or are we poorer in actual meaningful ways?
look, when people, if people actually go back to being as poor as they were in the 90s, they're not going to like it. So,
well,
What does that mean?
His claim is that people were severely more impoverished in the 90s in the West. I mean, Dave's face kind of says it all, I think, in response to that claim. Basically, he did not perform well in this debate. He went on to seethe about it for about like 2 hours, which I think it was actually like 18 minutes. I didn't watch
Nathan
them
did,
all
by
of
the
this. I
way,
started
not
to
Dave.
watch it.
Dave.
Oh yes,
killed.
not Dave. No, Dave. Yeah, messed him up. But yeah, he just went on to. It was like 8 minutes. We could see if this is. I watched some of this. We'll see if it's interesting enough.
Can I show you a funny
bit of
tweet?
His post-stream seething. Yeah, sure.
There's a funny tweet that Dave pointed out. Oh, God damn it! Give me a second. Why? Stop spurging. My mouse is being weird.
Oh my God, this home app tweet, or this is from
No.
someone else?
That is
Okay.
one thing. By the way, that tweet there, that one from Home Math, I laughed my ass off at that. I don't know why.
It's like I'm not sure what this has to do with it, but
I know. That's completely okay. So pull the tweet up again.
The
Home Math one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So sorry that you have so much AIDS in your anus. Great.
I saw that like this like makes no sense whatsoever in the context of what this thing is, but it just made me laugh my ass off for like 5 minutes. I just kept trying to read it and not laugh, and no, I couldn't do it. Okay, so because apparently people have been spurging at Dave. People have been spurging at Dave.
Yes.
So
They've been, subtweeting and stuff, yes.
so I offered Dave this, and this was his reply.
Mm-hmm.
There's another post on Discord.
Yeah.
I've just read it.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, Spoon is the kind of man who pushes his way to the front row seats at a public execution.
I like the way that he admits
I
that
can believe it.
that his debates would be a public execution because he
Well, pretty much.
yeah, because the post that I'm replying to there is He just said, just a PSA to all the James Lindsay, Nathan Coffness fanboys who keep subtweeting me because they're angry about a debate in the past. I'm available for conversation. We can just schedule a follow-up. You don't need to spurg out. Which is true. Like, Dave will talk to absolutely anyone. Like, he actually enjoys the Todd wrangling. And he's very good at it. But if the Nathan debate was anything to go by, please don't go up against Dave and not be prepared, because he will kill you.
It's never worked out well for anyone.
Yes, Dave knows how to debate, and he's versed very well. So if you're gonna make a spectacle out of yourself, like, don't show up like a fucking OnlyFans chick talking to Andrew Wilson or whatever podcast. Like, you're gonna get killed.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
This was an interesting thread from last week.
Oh, the Vigilant
covered
Fox.
Yes, this was the meeting about COVID. Went on for a considerable amount of time, and there was a lot of evidence that came out about this. Whom? Oh, the Vigilant Fox
the chapter
account?
that left it, yeah.
Yeah. I would suggest people go through this in general, but it's everything that, now the time has passed, the moment has passed, so we're allowed to talk about COVID. We're allowed to talk about things that were known since the beginning about the myocarditis, things that were hidden from the public, things that, again, you could have lost your job. You could have been censored off of the internet, essentially, for saying. Well, now the time has passed, so these are just all accepted things to say. Nothing's changed except for the millions of people who were potentially negatively affected by these vaccines that were not put onto a regular schedule for operationalization and testing at all. The normal time frame it takes for a vaccine to go from identification of the problem towards being actually available to the public, it's something like 10 years on an average time frame.
Yeah,
And
you
this was
can't
done
accelerate medicine, can you?
No,
because part of
absolutely
the way you look at the side effects is long term, and
Yes.
usually that's animal testing and things like that. And it's sort of mad that everyone had just forgotten that that was normal. It's like, oh right, this thing that's hot off the press, it's going to be perfectly safe.
Yeah, that was astonishing to me. Even working in social science, in which the turnaround for a social science paper is about a year. 6 months to a year. So how was a novel virus identified to go from that to identification of novel virus? I mean, yes, it's a COVID type virus, but still a novel version of the COVID virus, to mass rollouts of a vaccine. So the entire identification through testing phase that was all completed in a year, none of that lined up. There's no way to test, obviously, for longitudinal effects. For example, things like this mirrored the effects of chemical abortion, long-term myocarditis. We know about potential risk in rats of the loss of ova, global fertility issues along with that as well. I mean, it was just, you can't sue the manufacturers, quite interestingly. That was put into place, of course.
That was the
For like
one thing where I was
70
just like,
years, yeah.
okay, there's no way I'm ever going to take this.
No.
When you couldn't sue them if it went wrong. I was just like, okay, they know something's up, because they don't put that clause in and insist on it, because at one point, I actually remember this, there was a point of negotiation between the manufacturers and governments. I think I was covering this for Lotus Eaters at the time, and part of the reason that was halted for at least a couple of weeks, I think, was that the companies were insistent on we're adding this clause in, and I was just like, okay, they stand to make probably more money in the shortest space of time that they've ever done, and they're insisting on this clause. Well, there's obviously something going on here.
Yeah.
And the governments all signed off on it and said, sure, we will essentially make it so no matter what harm is done to our citizens, that's all right. We're willing to take the risk over a flu virus. Yes, the earliest versions of COVID were far more deadly, far more serious. But the way that the virus evolved, as they do very quickly, was to be more easily transmissible and far less deadly, so that the virus can propagate itself, which is all it's trying to do. If it kills off every host, or kills off too many hosts, then it kills itself long term. So, that's what we have known for hundreds of years plus of virology understanding, is how viruses work and adapt and evolve. But there's millions of people also with vaccine injury. We know about the incredible amount of VAERS reports from all kinds of different symptoms that were caused by the vaccine itself. Longitudinal effects, and then, of course, the claims of long COVID, which I'm not completely convinced of the long COVID claims. I know people will say that they have it, and I've just not seen any research on it that shows that that is as significant of an issue, long-term effects of having had the COVID virus, comparatively
I actually
to the long-term effects of
had some
the
slight
vaccine.
ones
Yeah?
myself, and I'm not saying this for any particular political reason, but just out of interest. I think it probably didn't help that I had it just before Christmas, and then I drank a lot of alcohol, which probably didn't help much with the recovery. But for about a month afterwards, I was short of breath for quite some time, and it's kind of gross, but I would sweat through my clothes. I'd have to get like changed twice a day.
Yeah.
For about a couple of weeks afterwards. But then following that, I was back to doing 10K runs, and I was normal again.
When people
So it wasn't that long term.
I think the long COVID claims start at like 6 months or more of continued symptoms, and or that via the classifications of it. So we're talking about in those claims, and then a lot of people who I've seen claim they have long COVID. It's like, I'm tired all the time. I don't feel like I'm not motivated. And it's like, well, that sounds kind of like depression.
Sounds like the human condition.
Or that too,
like
yeah. Well,
modern Western living.
Speaking of the depression stuff, yes, of course, that got quietly dropped not too long ago. That the serotonin reuptake inhibitors do nothing to curb what they're supposedly treating in terms of depression. So people have been on these drugs sometimes for decades and decades, thinking it's treating their depression, and there's really no evidence to back that up.
I was talking about this yesterday, actually, on Lotus Eaters, is that people approach antidepressants like you approach other kinds of medicine, non-psychological medicine. Say you have a rash on your hand and you put a topical cream on it.
Right.
They think it works like that, where you take the medicine and it goes away. That's what people think medicine is. But actually, what most psychologists have in mind is that it's something to give them a kick up the backside, to get them to habituate themselves in a way that is more conducive to not being depressed, for example. It's basically like a crutch, and in many cases, I think for most people, the withdrawal is far worse than the original symptoms, and therefore, actually, there's a pretty good case to say that in most cases, it's probably not helpful.
Perhaps it was being used as a crutch, because what the results of the research on that, the meta-analyses, seemed to be was that it's not that it necessarily makes the depression worse, nor that it makes it better. It flattens affect. So you'll feel less of the really negative effects. You'll feel less depressed, maybe, but you also don't feel the very positive sides of emotion because the affect is flattened. And you can understand how long-term, if people are staying on these drugs for years and years and years, little things in life don't make them happy anymore. Just like little things, I guess, in life maybe don't make them as sad, but long-term, the effects of that can't be psychologically healthy if you're not feeling senses of euphoria, essentially, which is what it appears to do with the flattened affect stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I highly suggest going through and listening to all of the individual segments in this thread. I'll go ahead and post it, actually, in the live chat, if you're interested in going through it, because there's lots of details in there. But again, none of this kind of stuff, even though these have been these cases, this information has been documented now for the last 5 years. I think even, well, Spoon, when you and I started doing this show, which is what, 3 years ago now?
Probably.
I don't think we had to really watch what we said around COVID. So just in 3 years, that has changed a lot. I made a video about it. So I was in the hospital right when COVID started, when it really started to spread. I was in the hospital for like 3 months, and I worked on the COVID video while I was in the hospital. And when I got out, I remember that there were lots of rules on YouTube at that time. That would have been in 2020. That you just couldn't say anything about it, and if you said things on YouTube about it, that either you were going to get shadow banned, the video was not going to be promoted because you weren't an expert. But it turns out, again, a lot of the experts either did not tell the truth or were not clear in what was going on, and a lot of people essentially took a drug that they were not actually informed of its potential effects, because the people who made it didn't know the potential effects because it hadn't been tested.
I will say,
as a result,
speaking about the Koofies, one of the first times I got a strike at my channel.
Yeah, Well, there you go. There you go.
That's because I was speaking
they're
about, I was quoting the World Health Organization.
Yes. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
Which
quoted
made
the
no fucking
WHO.
sense.
Well, yes, it did. It was narrative control. If you quoted it in a way that didn't suit the narrative.
No, but I just used their stats.
Well, no. You have to only the anointed ones can use the stats correctly. Apparently,
I am anointed. I'm white.
The result, of course, is that the COVID vaccine has been removed from the CDC's immunization schedule for kids, as there is no evidence to use it. It's also, we covered this, I think, last week, that they're really only going to recommend it for people over the age of 65, and for people who were obsessed with COVID, who are continuing to make that a part of their lives, and they do exist. That's going to be a struggle for them, clearly, because they have made this their whole lives. It's just like with a lot of the woke stuff. As woke is being put away, as I believe it is, and as we see significantly more evidence of, basically by the day, there are people who are going to be stuck in that. So just like how you'll still see people occasionally wearing masks and everyone laughs at them, you will still see some of this woke stuff for a period of time as it starts to go away, and everyone will laugh at them. People are probably permanently psychologically deranged from it, but, I did mention this Raoul guy about how much he's done to damage credibility of science by conducting, just for example, even after he had been sanctioned and his lab was shut down, essentially, he went ahead and published another study on hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin without ethical permissions that included 30,000 participants. He was called out for this. This is like this very famous guy I said they sold nativity figures of. And this was just as of May 9th. He is suing 2 scholars for calling him out because there were 456 papers that had to be retracted, or are now on the list for retraction because of ethics violations, because he did not have ethical approval for any of these. 456 papers.
That is massive.
Yep.
And also, if you're working in medicine,
yes, medicine.
That should be the area where they've got the most strict ethical guidelines. Like, I've done experiments where I've had to go back and forth with the ethics committee several times, and it's been like investigating things on a computer-based experiment that is looking at human decision making. There's no real ethical concerns there as far as research goes, and yet it was a pain to go through that whole process. And it amazes me. This is obviously deliberate. He can't have just said, "Oh, I forgot about it."
No, not if you've been doing it since 1993 and bragging about it just weeks before you dropped this massive hydroxychloroquine study that in a very small sample size, which this guy Didier Renaud did, which he purported findings that showed that the use of hydroxychloroquine, particularly when combined with azithromycin, caused increased mortality rates. It was directly responsible for the WHO pulling any and all research on hydroxychloroquine on COVID, and indefinitely. It's only very recently, this was in 2020 that this happened, and just a week before he published that paper, he was in a lecture hall bragging to students about how he doesn't follow ethical guidelines. He doesn't like having a parachute because it stifles his research. A parachute as aka a control group. Okay. This guy has been doing it since 1993, meaning there's no group that doesn't receive the treatment spoon, whatever the treatment is. He just gives it. He doesn't have anything to properly compare against. And this is this leading medical scientist who was responsible for getting Remember when hydroxychloroquine was demonized as not so much as ivermectin, I think that got the horse paste.
Yeah, I remember there was a Nigerian black lady doctor who spoke about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see. I'm gonna switch topics now because that was the end of my science segment. This was interesting. It's spring, summer now.
I saved the world, but I'm not saving.
Shut up.
It's riot season now.
Yes, it's riot season, so it's happening. So Seattle mayor blames Christian rally for inspiring violent anarchists who infiltrated counter-protest. Mayor Harrell accused anarchists of... I know. Yes. Mayor Harrell accused
How?
anarchists of infiltrating a counter-protest at the May Day USA rally and causing violence that led to 23 arrests. Yeah. So blamed the Christian rally and on infiltrating anarchists for the violence breaking out. So what really happened is that there was a Christian rally.
Ah, yes, Christian
leftists
anarchists, the
spurred out.
latest craze of people fucking shit
Right.
up.
I doubt there'd be 23 Christian anarchists in the entire state.
Right.
Yeah.
But a bunch of Antifa folks showed up and did what they do. They, caused violence. And
The
instead now
homosexuals.
the mayor is saying, no, actually they were infiltrators there. So who were just anarchists. 23 people were arrested at Cal Anderson Park during May Day USA's Don't Mess With Our Kids rally and a pro-LGBTQ counter-protest. According to the SPD, police witnessed multiple people inside one group throw items at the opposing group. And while arresting individuals were assaulted by other individuals, leading to an officer requiring medical treatment. After the scuffle broke out, Harrell's office released a statement defending the LGBTQ community and criticizing the far-right rally for provoking the violent reaction.
What? So
You can't even defend yourself. Yeah. Yes.
There's a massive optics thing here of the protest was called "Don't Mess With Our Kids," and then they were like, "Yes, we're going to counter this protest." Isn't that the biggest self-report ever?
Yeah, with a gay rally. I mean, it really is telling as to what it's all about. It's that they want access to children. Otherwise, why would a LGBTQ group show up to protest this the theme of this event, which is don't mess with our kids, unless they want to mess with kids?
Well, here's the
Seemingly.
thing. Just from a logical perspective of they have to go after the children because gays don't reproduce.
I'm actually going to show you an example of what they were after. Yes, because they don't reproduce. They are actually just this woman. She's got a baby, and who are they accosting so significantly? The woman with the child at the "Don't Mess With Our Kids" rally. Yeah. So this was apparently just before the fight actually broke out. Seems like they want to mess with the kids. I don't know. Just giving off that impression.
You should Pink
I don't
Floyd
know why
them.
she was still. I don't know why she was still stood there, to be honest, surrounded by those people.
Well, I think
Neither
she's
do
so
I.
surrounded, you probably can't even really get out at that point.
Yeah, it looks like it.
I mean, she's totally surrounded by them. It's basically just, what it is with so many of these people, which is essentially just, and the Seattle response is just let them kill you. Why are you fighting back? Just let them kill you. It's your fault. So, that's why it must be agitators on the right who caused it. Because you should have just laid down and let them kill you. And which reminded me of this, or kind of lines in with it, which is Sarah Levine, of course, was all in favor of severely punishing the January 6ers for essentially misdemeanors.
She looks evil.
And is now crying that her job is on the line. Her job, not her freedom. Her job is on the line under the Trump administration.
After 3 weeks of training and getting prepared for the next week, that Friday I left work. I walked to the metro station. I got on the train and I pulled out my phone and I saw a litigation hold that had been put on it. And attached to that was a memo that gave Mr. Martin permission to fire probationary employees from the Capitol C.
I'm done. I don't care. But it's
Bitch,
always this.
Okay, if you are
No,
crying...
why am I getting in trouble? Why am I getting in trouble for putting people in prison without trial for over a year?
If you are crying in government, you don't belong in government.
Well, woman.
Simple as that. End of story. Fuck off.
She seems very narcissistic as well. Just
That she does,
her
yes.
tone of voice and her
Yes.
demeanor.
It really is, though. Let us kill you, and I won't bombard you with any more than this of the South African stuff today, Spoon. I know how much you love talking about it. But this, of course, Ramaphosa was asked questions. I'm sure you can understand sometimes trying to explain things about your own country being discussed when other people are not from your country is frustrating, Josh.
No,
It's
no,
not.
it's
Well.
No, it's not even just that. It's that for some bizarre reason, people think South Africa is unique because it has a racial disparity. But this is tribal warfare like every other fucking nation ever. The reason it just feels different is because it's you. It's the Afrikaners, and there's this whole, the entire world is trying to, have a go at white people because they're envious that we're awesome and they suck. That's just the reality. And I'm never not going to say that. You can all fuck off, eat a dick. The reality is, this motherfucker has been part of the ANC, as was Julius Malema. Julius Malema was a complete moron who did not get any attention in the freaking AFC. He's in the ANC. He's been there for freaking ages.
He was a radical communist.
Yes, basically, and so so is the ANC. The EFF is just even more radical. Basically, they went like, you have no bloody being here. So he basically either left or got kicked out of the party, and he decided to form his own one, even more extreme, to basically appeal to the stupid morons that think the ANC doesn't work, and the reason they don't work is because they haven't been far left enough. He basically appeals to those random
Many
idiots.
such cases.
Yes, and that's
thinking
all,
that for some reason.
Yes, that's all he is. Like I said this, I was speaking to Scrum about this, and he told me to say this. He's basically the AOC of our politics.
Oh, for
He's
sure.
not a serious power broker. He's a moron. He's an idiot.
Yes.
He doesn't know shit.
Yes. Yeah, he's there to to do a little theater.
Yes,
Well, if he
exactly.
was smart, he'd be a bit more subtle, wouldn't he?
Well, if their intention there is an agitator though, to do essentially agitprop, then you want someone to be very boisterous and gaining that attention.
I suppose.
Especially if it's being
And
used as a
act like
fear
it's-
tactic as it is in South Africa.
Yes.
Of look.
These
These
people don't actually dislike white people. They know where the money comes from. Sure as hell doesn't come from their own friggin' people, and their own people's lives are fucking worse for it. So, like the smart black people move the hell away from the ANC. The stupid ones go towards the FF. That's just the reality of seeing it play out in public. The smarter black people, they can't speak about the reality of the situation because, well, being surrounded by people who still like that.
Yeah, they're afraid to. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. And so, whenever you see this, like he's surrounded by white people and he's not going to do shit because they're chummies with him. That's French in Afrikaans, by the way. The same way that when he was saying, "Oh, look, this isn't true." Well, of course he's going to say that. He can't admit the freaking truth. Like, why would he? What does he get politically? Nothing. And he's going to look like a pariah on the global stage. So I'm not surprised he doesn't say anything because he's stuck in a fucking rock and a hard place. That's just like the political reality of the situation.
For Ramaphosa, he is stuck politically between two incompatible positions.
Yes, I mean,
so he has to come out though and defend the chanting of the kill the poor,
Julius,
kill the farmer.
Yeah,
it's not literal. Okay,
by the way,
sure thing.
he's more afraid of Malema than he is of anything else because Malema's got dirt on him.
But
that's the reason why he's roughly kept around. It's
Oh,
because he's been there around. That's basically it. Like he's basically. Why am I keep saying basically so much? I swear he's got AIDS.
I'll keep saying many such cases on that front as well.
Yeah.
Someone's got dirt on him.
I suspect he has AIDS because Malema is really thin now. He looks emaciated thin. He looks sick.
Does he have AIDS?
Yeah, I suspect he probably does. Because he doesn't
He's
look
hoping.
healthy.
Yeah.
He looks really emaciated and quite gaunt.
I've heard a lot of people speculate he has AIDS at least. So
They need to stop killing the farmers then, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you can get some food, yeah.
Yeah, okay, but here's the thing. Everyone knows this. If all the Afrikaners left, South Africa would become a failed state within weeks. It would collapse. The only thing keeping up is white money.
Yep.
Right?
And it's what? How the white percentage of the population? It's like 20.
20%? No, it's like no. It's like 5.
It's not that low. Oh no of white landowners, but I thought the total number was like 30%. Is it only like 5?
It's like 6. It's like less than 6% of the country.
Oh shit! I thought it was significantly higher than that.
No, it's minuscule. And everywhere,
and even so, is still propping up the whole country economically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I don't think people actually understand just how parasitic the South African population is. Like, it's not even funny. It's insane. Half the country is completely dependent on the state, and the state is funded by like less than 7% of the population. It's fucking insane.
Yeah, I thought it was higher than that, but yes, we did just look at that recently. That it's a significant. Maybe that's where I was getting. Maybe the 70% one was 70% of people in South Africa are employed by the government. That must have been that statistic.
Yes, that's the other one. So. Everyone knows this. If South Africa was just the Afrikaners, it would be a world superpower.
Well, I mean, world superpower by 2030.
If so Switzerland can be a world superpower, then fuck it, we can as well. The Afrikaners punch well above their weight.
I mean, I'm sure
Ask
you're right.
Dricus Duplessis.
There you go. So of course it's not. Don't take it literally though.
The National Court also decided when it said that, that slogan, kill the Boer, kill the farmer, is a liberation chant.
From what? From food?
And it's
apparently. I mean, it's certainly doing that.
Liberate them from civilization.
It's doing that as well.
To be a message that elicits or calls upon anyone to go and be killed. And that
yes,
is
it
what
does, you moron.
The phrase "kill X" does not mean kill X. Try to circle that square. Okay, that's pathetic.
Court decided. So
this is, oh god, it's just cringe.
It is.
It's just like it's just dumb. Like, who the hell do you think you're fooling? Like, it's liberation from fucking what? You've had the government for 30 years, you slow retards. Yes. You haven't done jack shit with it. Do you know why? It's because your people could never run a first world fucking civilization if your goddamn lives depended. Because you don't have the genetics. You didn't make the civilization, and you sure as shit didn't put the infrastructure in place. That was all done by Europeans.
Well, that's certainly part of it. And as we were talking about last week with that clip of the word maintenance and how these African languages don't have a word for it. Yeah, Frank Zano.
Yeah.
Is that if your culture, if you didn't make something, why would you respect it as much as if you had?
Yes.
Right? You've put sweat and tears, your family has put sweat and tears and blood into something versus just having something given to you. You haven't had to work for it at all. It is being given. Why would you respect that thing to the same degree that the person who has worked for it does?
Yeah. Same thing in Laos with Eddie in Empires of Dust.
Yes, go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
I was going to say that I think it's also a fact of they can't even comprehend what goes into maintaining the system, even if they had the best intentions in the world. They're simply not capable of doing it. They don't have the ability to do that. And the fact that it's also a symbol of their so-called, oppression incentivizes them being all the more incompetent on top of that.
Yeah.
Right. Just asking for money. Oh, I saw a horrible clip
This is also why South Africa's current regime will never educate the populace, because it's much easier to just blame everything on white people, because the moment anyone that gets brains and money, they look at the ANC and go like, you are fucking the country up. We want to get you the hell out of power. So it's indicative of the people in power to keep the people as stupid as possible so they get fucking votes.
Yeah.
That's why democracy doesn't work in South Africa. Like, democracy in South Africa is fucking insane.
Right. As long as these people are getting something from the government, then they'll continue to and once that.
But it's not sustainable.
They know that no, it's not sustainable. Although again, with this, apparently Xi Jinping is stepping up,
future leader of South Africa,
to support South Africa and replace all 500 American companies. How do you think that's going to work out, Spoon?
I think he would be a better leader for South Africa than the current administration.
I don't think that would be hard to do either, to be fair.
I would rather trust the Chinese than the current regime.
At
least I know where I stand with the Chinese.
Right? At least they're going to require you to work. You're going to have to actually do something. You can't just sit there and rely on government benefits, I would presume.
And also, the Chinese has no problem with slavery.
Well, that's exactly. Anyone celebrating this, good China, communist China is going to take over.
Yeah,
they're not
China
going to allow 70% of people to sit on their ass on government benefits.
Yeah, China is not exactly a fan of labor laws, to say the least.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I cut you off again, Josh.
That's all right. I was just going to say Empire of Dust was like an advert for the Chinese the whole time. They were like an island of sanity. Never thought I'd say that, but there we go.
Well, comparatively to the Congo, I suppose. But
that's not hard.
True. It is that Gibbs mentality. And I didn't put this in the stream today because I don't like showing videos of children, particularly when they're being manipulated by parents. But it was like, some Pakistani migrant or something. Just doing this little TikTok with these two kids and teaching them how to beg for money, essentially. You say that the UK government owes them money.
In a strange kind of way, I can sort of respect the Chinese of looking at the West and go, okay, whatever they did to just like destroy their culture, don't do that. And if China thinks that through more like empire kind of rule, which is sort of what Xi Jinping is, I can sort of understand why they think culturally for the Chinese this is better than like the liberal decay of the West. I may not agree with it, but I can sort of understand why the Chinese people might feel that way.
Yeah.
Well, they can certainly sustain a civilization, which
yes,
can't be said for the ANC. That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the best segue I could find for talking about the Liverpool parade crash, collision, attack, whatever word you want to use for it.
Chinese rule to Liverpool?
It was
the Chinese.
It was the Gibbs aspect,
right.
and more specifically about the portion of the population that normally is responsible for such attacks, but you don't find out about exactly who,
foreigners,
and, what their name was until far after the fact. Whereas in this instance, almost immediately, the suspect is listed as a white person.
I wonder why.
I thought your transition there was going to be that when talking about Gibbs was that half the people in Liverpool are probably on welfare. That's our common stereotype.
Oh, that would have been better. That's actually funny.
However, in that case, if there is a group of people you think you wouldn't want to fuck with in such a way, it'd be during such an event would be
our Liverpudlians, yes.
Yeah, but well.
Every person I've met from Liverpool has either been verbally or physically aggressive, and it's only 3 people, but that's enough.
You get a sample size of 3 is good enough, I think.
I will say I used to play World of Warcraft with 3 Scousers, and I will say when they got drunk and we PvP'd at like 4 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, it was some of the funniest times of my childhood. Like my teenage years was some of those 3 guys like yelling. It was funny as shit.
By the way, I'm not actually being mean to Liverpool. They produced my favourite band. I know.
Nice.
It's the Beatles. I'm a bit ashamed to admit it, but
really?
also they're great.
Well, I mean, yeah, like there's a reason.
It looks like Nathan
so
Kofonus's mother.
Yes. Oh my God, yes, a little bit, huh? So this was the statement, which, of course, because this raised eyebrows immediately.
Of course, it's a fucking woman. Jesus Christ.
Well, because normally the police don't release the race of the suspect immediately after such an event. Did my browser freeze again? It did. Let's see. Oh, hang on. I might have to. I hate when Brave decides to do this. One moment. Oh, yeah.
I don't know why your Brave crashes and my Brave never does.
We have been over this multiple times, which is that Brave consumes a huge amount of CPU because of how it blocks
I'm
ads.
currently on a laptop that is nowhere near as oomphy as my machine, and it's still fine.
Yeah, and I'm sharing my screen, which changes the equation.
Okay.
Anyway, there we go.
Smartass.
Oh, only for you.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen again. Here we go. And there it is. Okay, cool. Because I wanted to play the video of this.
There we go.
Police were quick to release details of the man they arrested
I watched this video of the police chief or whatever this morning. I thought it would be in here. Is it not? No. Wait. Oh, it's not in here, is it? Okay, that's unfortunate. That's why I pulled this article. Oh well. The claim is basically, is it maybe not in this article? This is just the general news. How many people were injured? Is it on here at least? Did they not? This article is worthless then. I don't even think they had the number of people injured on this. What we know.
I don't think we actually know yet. I wasn't able to find out. I think there was a couple seriously injured, and most of it was minor injuries.
Yeah.
My friend just messaged me about that. She said, my colleague was in Liverpool yesterday and was just missed by the car. The guy stalled.
Oh, wow.
Then when he started the car again, he panicked and plowed the crowd. And they say women can't drive. Jesus.
It does sound very similar to the case of, do you remember the Charlottesville? That was Charlottesville, the guy ran over the big fat woman.
I remember that, yeah.
His car.
I'm glad it was you laughing.
I laugh at tragedies all the time, Josh.
She was a huge fat woman. Well, she was a huge fat woman. She died of a heart attack. Now, she did get hit by the car, but of course that guy was labeled. I can't even recall his name now. But
and then it was considered cruelty to animals.
He was labeled as a Nazi white supremacist terrorist. When if you watch the footage, there was that one guy, in fact, a professor, if I recall correctly, was waving an AR-15 at him. They were throwing rocks at him and banging on his car. And so what are you supposed to do when your life is being threatened and you are in a deadly machine that can protect you from being harmed? And I don't know if it was exactly identical But I had also
I'm
heard
gonna
that
be
it seemed
honest.
as if he is panicked.
I think if you go up to a car and you start smacking it, or, for example, if you sit in the road trying to protest and you get hit by a car, I don't think you should be able to hold the driver liable.
Well, yeah, I think at that point. But again, this has just happened, so... well, who knows? We'll find out.
It's like street justice. Like, if you're stupid enough to go and whack somebody's car and they end up crushing you with the car, that's because you're retarded.
Well, I saw quite a few videos of this incident, and the first thing I noticed, first and foremost, is how did the police allow cars to get to the crowd in the first place? Because it seemed like it was so packed that it wasn't safe for cars to go through. And I think that allowed the situation to exist in the first place. But of course, there is a sort of caveat there that earlier on in the event, they had like double-decker buses going through with, you know, all sorts of people. And there was sort of like, it was similar to a parade, I guess. And so it makes sense that maybe they didn't want to close it off. But then the second thing is you see videos of that car before it actually plows into the crowd. And it's sort of just trying to weave its way through the crowd for whatever reason, which is stupid on the driver's part, because you should know you don't drive into a crowd just as a matter of course. But then the crowd goes up and starts trying to open the doors and hit on the windows and stuff because it's a massive, likely drunk Scousers. And, you know, it's football fans. It doesn't really matter where it is. If you've just won the league, which... if you're outside of Britain, is a very big deal to us. Then it's a cause for celebration, and you sink down lots of beers, and that's normal. And you don't drive a car into a rowdy crowd. It's ridiculous. But what happened is, obviously, he reacted to that situation and panicked and did what he did, which is entirely on him still. But I do still think there's some fault with how the thing was organized, because he shouldn't have been allowed to get to that position in the first place.
Right. Yeah, how did he end up there? That was how did the car end up in that position in the first place? It's a question. And again, the thing that was so odd about this, though, is how quickly, specifically that he was white, was released to the public.
Yes.
Whereas that is obviously not normally the case. And here the Telegraph says, "Do not expect us to release every suspect's ethnicity, say police. Force makes unprecedented decision to reveal nationality of man who plowed into Liverpool crowds 2 hours after." So it was 2 hours after the attack. Sometimes we never get it, or don't get it for years and years.
This should just be standard practice. When I'm dictator of the world, I'm going to make this just the law. You've got to report the ethnicity, maybe even the nationality. You know, I want to know everything about the person, because I want to be able to spot the patterns of who's committing crime. And again, I know anything that can give me data to enhance my noticing.
If you were dictator, I don't think there's people who would do these things would exist any longer. I'm just saying, if you want to go dictator, that's your life. Go full hog, you know.
We'd never have a fertilizer shortage ever again.
Oh my God.
Jesus fucking Christ. Okay.
I'm joking, by the way.
Yeah, but it is that you do want it for data reasons. If for just that alone, to be able to get accurate data so that you can know, is there a group that is disproportionately committing crimes and specific types of crimes, etc. You need to be able to collect the data and have access to it. But this is a very rare instance where the ethnicity was given almost immediately. Yeah, within 2 hours. Oftentimes you don't even get names because the names imply the ethnicity, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much.
Let's see. Actually, Spoon, do you want to read this? Because I'm going to pop to the bathroom real quick, and I'll be right back.
You can see, police forces has said that they will not release the ethnicity of every suspect in the wake of the incident in Liverpool on Monday. I wonder why. The driver of a car that plowed into the crowd there during the Liverpool Football Club's victory parade was described as white British hours... Just say white, for fuck's sake. Hours after being arrested... Okay, never mind. In the wake of the Southport killing in 2024, Merseyside police were heavily criticized for allowing a void of information about the perpetrator, Axel, I'm not even going to pronounce that name, Foreign, which was found with misinformation. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Was found with misinformation, including that he was a Muslim asylum seeker. Keen to avoid a potential similar situation, the force said Monday suspect that a 53-year-old white British man from Liverpool just 2 hours after the incident took place. Usually when a suspect is arrested, police forces in England and Wales disclose the age of the person and where they were arrested. There was no national guidance about what information to release, and it's ultimately at the discretion of the chief constable. Sources said, "Oh, fuck off, who the hell are you kidding?" They added that revealing suspects' nationalities would not happen in every case because it was not always relevant. Fuck off. Like, who are you kidding?
I returned to fuck off, so I presume it was about, we're not going to do this again.
It was the identity reveal.
Mm-hmm.
To be an issue at a trial in some cases. I feel like if you constantly reveal the identities and it's not native,
it's not an issue then, is it?
It's not a native person. After a while, you go, why the hell are so many non-native people in England committing crimes?
But why? Obviously, this is an exception to the rule. They aren't afraid that this will prejudice the jury in any way to release this. For some reason, for him to be white would not prejudice the jury. But if he were brown, it would prejudice the jury. And why would that be the case? Could it be because they commit more crimes?
Look at this. Given the events that followed the Southport attack, there's obviously a heightened awareness of when information... Motherfucker, it's not when. They just know what the information is and they want it. When they say it's a white person, immediately they're going to go, there's a reason for that. If it takes you multiple days, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're not going to reveal the race. It's because it's not a native. Everyone knows this.
I mean, yes, curiously enough, they end up revealing the race or ethnicity always based on whether or not you know it.
Yes.
Definitively.
And the fact that you are admitting you're doing this based on this and not based on speed of attaining the info tells you you're doing it for a particular purpose.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, normally the nature of the crime is the best indication of who's doing it, right?
Yes.
Like
is it a stabbing?
What is it? Sailor's law, where if there's an active shooter and people are dead, they're white. If there's no fatalities, they're black.
Yeah, well.
Something along those lines. Obviously, it's not always true, but
yeah,
it's interesting.
To that degree, though.
Yeah.
Right, but it's just obvious. This is more evidence of the two-tier policing system. Of it's one rules for one group, and another rules for another group. Yeah, Dal Babu. Former chief superintendent of the Metro Police said that decision to release the ethnicity of the subject so early was highly unusual. Speaking
I wonder
BBC
why.
Radio 5 Live. Yeah. What we do have, which is unprecedented, is the police very quickly giving the ethnicity and the race of the person who was driving the vehicle.
And there's an important note to make here that Southport is very close to Liverpool geographically, as in, if you were to hear people from Southport and Liverpool, you would presume they're from the same place because of their accents.
Yeah, I suppose that could be maybe not wanting this to be affiliated with Southport, as that's still a very obvious open source of pain in the region too. It's just, oh look, no, trust us, it wasn't a Muslim this time.
I think the entirety of the British state expects there to be another riot, which in the next incidents, I think will be, if it does happen, will be of a much larger scale than the last one. And the last ones, were nationwide, and the police didn't have the capacity to cope. And so they see this as a real threat because, of course, it could lead to sections of the country basically being lost to the state, which is a sentence that I love saying. But I also think that it's probably not that likely.
I do think there'll probably be a when it happens again, which is a when and not if. Yes, it's going to... people are tired of it, obviously. And they're tired of the two-tier policing system. And this, by the way, whatever the intent was, doesn't help add to that perception. That it is one rule for native Brits, and it is another rule for foreigners. In terms of whether or not your ethnicity will be released by the police.
Our quality of life has dropped so much that there are a lot of people in this country with nothing to lose. And
yeah, essentially.
It's a very dangerous recipe for the state.
Mm-hmm.
And also,
at the same time,
why
speaking
are
of
these
the
people
Southport stuff
here?
too.
They certainly don't belong here.
These people
we just covered
offer
that last week,
nothing,
that video.
not even to England, but to European civilization in general. If your country suck ass, it means the stock of that particular area is shit.
Yeah.
That is a reality. You did better when you had European managers, otherwise known as colonial powers. These people cannot rule themselves. You are to be ruled by benevolent rulers, which is the Europeans. The stupidest thing that Europe did was to let go of its empires.
We saw that clip just last week where it was a migrant who was saying, well, you know, why are you here? And they just outright said, for the money, for the gifts, for the free stuff.
Yes.
That's why.
Because their country
it's
Mexican
obvious.
guy, wasn't it?
Well, because if someone is just giving away free stuff because you happen to be a certain skin tone, then why wouldn't you take advantage of that?
Yeah, I can't really fault the people.
No, not the individuals.
I can.
Well, yeah, sure.
Getting something for nothing is demeaning as a human being, or at least a functional one, one that builds civilizations. It should be.
Yeah, but they don't have that, Josh.
But yeah,
I know.
Don't
yes.
have the IQ and long-term thinking
yes,
necessary.
I
just
feel like,
statistically speaking.
Yes, those things I actually think are genetic, and they are the product of decades and centuries of it. And those people don't have those materials. I don't think they have the hardware to actually understand our morality. This is one thing I'll probably get some shit from Christians about. I don't think Christianity is just universally applicable to human beings. I think it is exclusively something that can be done to only higher IQ people.
Probably, because it does require, you know, things like longitudinal
I said
thinking.
a higher, not a high one, but high enough to actually get it to stick.
Sure, because it requires that long-term thinking and planning. And
yes,
as we've talked
language.
about before, that's the whole sure, but it's a whole joke of, you know, I didn't do nothing, says the criminal upon being arrested, because he's not doing it in that exact second, because their time preference is now. There is only now. There's no concept of the future and barely any concept of the past. So whoever was doing the crime before, that's not who you are right now. You're not doing the crime now, so you've done nothing.
Yes.
And it also means there's no long-term planning. So they don't think about how to maintain things. Again, going back to that as well.
Yes. Don't even know what maintenance even is.
Yeah. So I think what the police have done very, very quickly, and I've never known a case like this before where they've given the ethnicity and the race of the individual who was involved in it. I think that was to dampen down some of the speculation from the far right that sort of continues on.
Maybe that's because the last time there was any kind of so-called terrorist attack was when fucking John Major was in office.
Yeah. Well, I think, but it probably is
that's a throwback name for you guys.
Because of the, it probably is, at least that's what they seem to be also noting here, is that it's due to the proximity to Southport.
I would say so. And yes, I think the last IRA attack, you know, an attack by white people, was in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so
which is why whenever I measure Islamic terror attacks in Britain, I go from 2005 onwards, because that's basically where they begin.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Mr. Babu said Merseyside police had clearly learnt lessons from the Southport attack and was trying a new strategy to quell false narratives forming early. And I did see a lot of people dunking on others on Twitter for guessing it was a Muslim. And it's like, oh, so the one time it's not, of course. And this is to make this stick out as the exception being the rule, I'd say. It's remarkably striking because police were not willing to release that kind of information because they'll be worried about prejudicing any future trial. But I think they have to balance that against the potential of public disorder. And we had massive public disorder after the far-right extremists had spread these rumors. I mean,
it's not a rumor, that's just a speculation. That's not the same thing.
And already, again, the thing here is that this is not going to be consistently applied.
Of course not.
It won't be for every attack. It's just for this one. Or attack, if this was an attack, if he was drunk or what, is not really known. Oh no, did this crash again? If it did, I'm going to switch over to using Google Chrome. Which I think I just will. Sorry. It's not the first time I've had problems with Brave. Okay, yeah, it totally crashed again. Jeez. Oh my gosh. Okay, 1 second, I gotta cancel Brave and bring up Chrome. There we go. Yeah, I don't, it's just because it's such a data hog. It messes up my computer.
All browsers recently have been causing problems, so I think what it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, it should be. Well, that's hopefully Brave or actually Chrome won't also give me problems.
Let's Be Blunt campaign for ban on pointed knives. How about you ban the people doing fucking crime?
Yeah, but this was just last week in relation to
Crime
South
is
Park
already illegal
as
and
well.
still happens, so clearly banning that is not going to get rid of the fucking crime, you idiot. Oh my god, I hate
We
women
need
so
some
fucking
common
much.
sense knife control.
I mean, like, this is ridiculous, though. Yoga teacher who survived the Southport attack says evil will not win as she launches her campaign for safer knives. Leanne Lucas managed to get several children to safety in the attack at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in July 2024, despite being stabbed several times. Leanne has partnered with Ben Kinsella Trust for the Let's Be Blunt, I mean, God, the fucking name, campaign calling for people to swap to blunted knives instead of ones with pointed tips. The teacher is heading to Westminster to call on MPs to endorse the campaign, saying the damage and the, quote, misery she saw caused by the knives must never be repeated.
I'm going to just quote a statistic, completely out of context here. 14% of the population of London, 63% of the knife murders.
It's an awfully big percentile for such a small portion of the population.
I know, it's funny that it mirrors a certain other comparable trend on the other side of the Atlantic.
However, how many people have
Wait a
pointed
minute,
knives? That's the
sense
real
a pattern
problem.
here.
I bet there's a pointed knife in every household. So those are the real problem, is the pointed edge of the knife.
Also, what are we going to be doing? How are we going to cook?
Well, I mean, here's a picture of them. Just the tips are blunted. Well, the entire edge of it's still sharp, I would presume.
Yes. They can't stab you, they just cut you.
I guess, right? So, I mean, in terms of the stabbing is more likely to kill someone immediately, at least, if you hit a vital organ or whatever.
Are we going to return to the 8th century meta of the axe once they round off the tips of our knives?
I suppose so, in order to cut tomatoes or whatever.
You're English people. You should start, rejuvenate your ancestors and start swinging the longbow again.
I do know how to use one, to be fair.
Oh, neat. I'm
not remotely surprised by that, actually.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome.
Believe me, you can only fire about 5 arrows before it really starts to hurt, because it's like 120 pounds at the least, if not more, and it's
Jesus.
It's like going to the gym.
Yeah.
So if you were like in the army and you find those things regularly, you must be like one fucking superhuman.
Well,
like a lot of power.
You can tell an English longbowman by their skeleton, because you can see it in their spine.
Oh wow!
Sturdy as a
archaeologically.
motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, you'd have
it was all crippled.
Differently. Yes, yeah. From having to do that so often.
If I just see that kind of stuff and I look at our modern athletes and then I see like Greek statues, it makes me think there is something that our ancestors did to achieve muscles that today require steroids. They did something. I don't know what the fuck they did, but it's clearly possible to look like that naturally. How?
I think
don't
that
know.
most of their life was just sort of. There was a lot more manual labor back then.
Yeah, physically driven.
We've got so much convenience that we have to go to the gym and do those sorts of things to imitate that lifestyle.
Yeah, just pick atlas stones constantly.
It wasn't the only person saying this about the knives. It was, Idris Elba said a similar thing. It's kitchen knives are the problem. It's just the levels of absurdity. When you have an obvious source of an issue, being the migrant population, not in this one instance in Liverpool, apparently, of which case it's important that everyone know that it's a white person. But it's just the same thing about, the knives are the problem. It's so fucking ridiculous.
I wonder what Idris Elba has as an incentive to say that it's the knives.
Yeah, can't imagine why he might feel this way.
Kitchen knives are perhaps 25% of the knives used in most of the terrible...
Okay, and what are the other 75%?
Kitchen spoons.
It's just spoons, yes.
I am not used for violent purposes, people.
Spoons, stop causing so much violence.
I think you probably do more damage with a spork, to be honest.
Well, yeah, for sure.
And those kitchen knives are usually a domestic situation. Okay.
Okay. So what's the percentage
knife...
we're talking about now of kitchen knives being used for violence? Starting out at
outside
25%.
versus inside the house.
And most of them used for domestic situations. In which case, I had the statistics on that, and it's generally speaking women who defend themselves with knives.
Wonder why?
At least in the U.S. Sample. I know women also will throw shoes and things like that, will throw objects, but women also use knives in domestic violence situations disproportionately.
Of course, it's very difficult. They're domestic knife. I do think there is areas of innovation that we can do with kitchen knives. I hate to say it.
So you are being potentially abused and in a violent situation to be able to defend themselves from their husband, even like that, because if that's you could go that way with it as well.
Arch-patriarch Idris Elba reinstating the patriarchy.
One knife at a time.
Not all kitchen knives need to have a point on them. That sounds like a crazy thing to say, but
yes, it is a crazy.
Reduce...
It is a crazy thing to say that knives don't need points on them.
We got so far down the liberalism rabbit hole that now we need to change the shape of knives that have been that way for what?
Forever. I mean,
10,000 years at least with metallurgy.
Yeah, if you go back and find ancient remains of knives, I'm pretty sure that they don't have blunted tips on them.
I'm pretty sure there were stone tools found in Dmanisi in Georgia that were 1.8 million years old that had sharp edges.
It would have been in Georgia, I suppose. Or
so you're trying to say that these people are more fucked up than your ancient ancestors?
Apparently.
Yes.
If they can't be allowed to
that's kind of fucking horrifying.
Because 1.8 million years ago, they weren't even human.
No, not in the...
And they still aren't.
No.
Anyway.
Well, that's Georgia, though. Sort of that
just
region
saying.
of Eurasia is the real actual bed of humanity.
Seeing as I can't say spicy words, I'm just going to go with spicy jokes.
There you go.
The point on the knife, which is an innovative way to sort of look at it. And in a country in crisis, I'm sorry, but let's look at that.
Why is the crisis the knives and not a group of people?
The people doing the damage.
The trying to dance around this so much it's pathetic, really.
Well, it's a rhetorical thing that they've been doing. They've been doing the same with the headlines about car, particularly in Germany, car plows into crowd, not the person driving it. They're dehumanizing the attackers, and trying to put the morality on the
object,
the implement that they've used. Yeah.
Right. Applying morality to a car. The car drove into the knife. Caused the stabbing somehow, which is to dehumanize and depersonalize the act of murder.
Truth is, all knives. The loophole on the heritage knives allows the sale of ninja swords to be sold.
Well, no, I thought that was a major issue that Starmer was
katanas. Just don't say ninja swords. You sound like a bag. Seriously.
That's exactly how that was how Starmer referred to them too, that wasn't it?
Yeah, but
the only way we're going to tackle the ninjas is to get rid of their swords.
Like, oh god,
they're ridiculous. Yes, the ninja sword problem, rampant.
So while you've got your granddad's sword on there and you want that, that's fine, of course.
Is it?
But it is leaving a loophole for someone to carry a ninja sword. So let's ban them all. And if you have one of those knives, get a license for it. Simple as that. And
my God, I can't believe it really is. You got a license for that knife. I mean, you really did.
You got a license? Fuck off.
Oh, really?
By the way, you don't need a license for a tank. Just throwing that one out there.
Oh, there you go.
Really?
That's true. Yes, and the road legal.
What is the legal definition for a tank?
Well, there's like
anything you can think
armored vehicles. Yeah. Spoon's looking into getting a tank now, I'm sure. But I mean, this is it's definitely the knives. It's nothing else.
I'm thinking of a certain Vice City mission.
Dude, did you see this? It's just this whole
I get that
situation
reference.
so absurd.
There you go.
It's so it's the knives. It's no demographic.
Oh no, you're not
whatsoever.
Like Michael
not the
Jackson.
Blue Peter clip.
It's so bad. It's so.
So if you're outside of Britain, Blue Peter is like a cultural institution. My parents watched Blue Peter as children. I watched it. It's been around since the 50s.
Oh, this is Blue Peter.
It was a staple of British culture, and I'm gonna set up with that first, I think.
Well, here is the modern edition.
Sound waves, yeah? They're so powerful that we can actually use them to smash this glass.
No. Oh, wait.
Hey, that sounds like a matching skill.
How is this all possible?
Danny, can you get that little ting for me?
Yeah, of course, brother.
Now that noise...
a lot of traditionally just typical-looking English lads, and here...
Mandem's discovered resonance.
Right, I know. It is for children, to be fair. So
frequency.
Okay.
Now, if we match that frequency using that mic and play the sound through that speaker, we can create enough sound vibrations to mash up that glass.
Okay, but why has he got a straw in there for?
Snobbish accentism at play, by the way, is how this was being described as being reacted to. Snobbish accentism. I'm sure that's all it is. Yes, snobbish.
Poor English is another way of putting it.
Yeah.
Take a little sip of something. No, we're not sipping that in today.
Okay.
Wait, yeah, it's difficult for me to understand them, to be completely honest.
And of course, you have two
well,
black
the
people.
sound
What do they
vibra-
do? Break.
This is becoming the accent of London now, by the way.
Right,
And
yeah.
even before mass migration, Londoners didn't have the best reputation outside the country. Now they have basically their own language. I don't think it's going to help them much.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, to a certain degree, it's not totally mutually intelligible.
Is going to cause that straw to move around. And when it's moving...
It's like going to... I am subscribed on Twitter, not subscribed. I do follow BBC Pigeon. And every once in a while I'll get essentially jump scared by seeing one of their tweets. It's just like, whoa, what happened? Why is it spelled like that?
I like to pretend that that's actually the main BBC channel.
it's
and
way
they're just
funnier.
dumbing down.
Yeah, it's far funnier to look at it that way. Well, funny in a very dark sense, I suppose. Literally and figuratively.
You know what I'm saying?
We might have to call in the experts for this. You are a professional opera singer, right? So this means
finally
you should
found
be
a white
pitch
person.
perfect.
I do my best.
Manny, remind Theo what the note is he has to hit.
This is the resonant frequency.
You got that, Theo? Go ahead.
Match that.
You can do this,
I mean,
okay?
I think we get the gist of the clip.
He's building a brick
Just,
shithouse, though.
Yeah, it has reached 10, which I think is when about to said that you want to head off. So just
It's all right. I can stay till the end. It's fine.
Oh,
I'm
no,
not that tired.
Okay, cool, awesome, right, excellent. So let's see. This was, of course, big news. Tommy is.
I want to see if I'm curious just to see if he can actually hit that note.
Okay. He does, by the way. All right, I'll go back.
Okay, well done.
No. He does.
Of course, the white
it was
man is the
more
one with
about
the talent.
Well, yeah, they do bring him in to actually be able to demonstrate this, huh? Here you go.
Let's go. 3, 2, 1, go! It's vibrating.
There you go. There you go. Mission accomplished. Oh,
I don't know why they went for a man for a high-pitched noise, really, but there we go.
Said he was a
lung
trained
capacity.
opera singer.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, yep, Tommy's been freed. Here's a statement, I guess.
Mr. Zion himself.
Well,
He looked like he should have been bringing Wilson out with him as well.
I know, right? How long has he been in prison, though? It's been 8 months? Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I don't know. This was Netanyahu.
You've been incarcerated in this horrible place since October. Can you tell me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. First of all, how are you? How are you feeling, boss?
I feel good. Unfortunately, in a country that doesn't believe in free speech, being a citizen journalist, this place...
And I do think, though, considering this is all over the news, we are
Oh, wait,
allowed to
that's
say the
him.
name Tommy Robinson. Yes, I think we are allowed to say the name Tommy Robinson.
I'm not
right
gonna
now.
lie, I
There was
didn't
a period of
recognize
time when
him
you couldn't even say it.
he spoke. Like, oh shit.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually preferred this look.
He
I
looked
think
like
it
he
suits
just
him a lot
like
better.
crash landed
Survivor,
from.
like he should be.
Yeah, like he just went to some fucking island and he just came back.
He should have.
You know when you watch Archer and then he just suddenly escapes in a fucking plane with a beard and full head, like it's basically that.
Yeah, this new remake of Castaway sucks.
Yes.
occupational hazard. It's ridiculous. 16 years ago, when I first started speaking out against Islamic rape gangs that were plaguing this country,
You do
from that
realize
point
he's completely
I faced
protected. Nothing will happen
relentless
to him.
attacks from the British state, wielding lawfare as a...
I mean, I understand why people want to support Tommy Robinson, and I think he was very genuine at one point in time, but at this point, unfortunately, I think he's captured by the state because he's been prisoner of it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean I wish ill on him or anything.
I'm gonna say something horrible.
In order to silence.
What
I
are you
think
gonna say?
Fuentes has more credibility than he does.
Oh my god. What a thing to say.
Shots fired.
I mean, disagree, but to what extent?
No,
Fuentes is more
Fuentes talks more. No, Fuentes talks more sense than he does. I'll stand by the statement.
Yeah,
I don't have
okay.
to. I don't have to like
Arguable.
him to listen to him and go like that's subjectively true.
me. I have never been convicted by a jury. Every one of my convictions have been handed down to me by judges. The lucky thing with this, everyone got to see the film. I have to say a thank you to Elon Musk, because without X, if we didn't have X, everyone would just think I lied. No one would have got any other narrative.
I mean, that's probably true.
I think, what was it, 167 million people saw the truth. So that gagging order, these attempts at censorship, to silence, to cancel people, it hasn't worked. You've attempted to lock up the truth, and that truth...
What's the value of that necklace you're sporting, mate? $5 grand?
It couldn't have been any more successful.
I
knew exactly what I was doing when I released...
So, I know some people are I am also
It's very
glad that
performative
he's been
sounding.
released. I just don't trust Tommy.
Well, why would you?
This was insane. Why did Lamentic? I saw a
yeah,
thing come up for that.
Hope Not Hate doxed Morgoth.
Doxed
didn't
Morgoth.
they?
Yeah.
Yes, it's insane actually how they went about doing this. So just
liberal
to read
democracy, gay.
Yes, Hope Not Hate, which receives government funding, just absolutely harassed him and his former neighbors. The anti-white organization, call it what it is, thank you, Hope Not Hate doxed my real name and my identity in a gutter trash article full of lies, cherry-picked out-of-context quotations and cheap smears. The hit piece article followed what seemed to be an extensive campaign of spying and intelligence gathering, more in keeping with East Germany or the Soviet Union than a supposed liberal democracy. I was advised to take a step back for a while as the hit piece played out, which explains the lack of activity over the last week. However, there are a few points I'd like to highlight and address in a response. After learning of an address I left years ago, Hope Not Hate proceeded to harass and question the current tenant of the property, whom I do not know, to elicit still more information about me, in particular my full name and personal details. Hope Not Hate activists claimed to be mere journalists interested in interviewing a, quote, popular YouTuber. Despite this, the current tenant found the behavior so perverse and unsettling that she called the police, who of course did nothing.
That's probably because Hope Not Hate have some interesting connections to the intelligence world.
I wonder why.
So of course they investigated themselves and found they had engaged in no wrongdoing. Still unsatisfied, the Hope Not Hate activist Harry Schuckman returned to the property the following day and pushed a letter through the door, offering the tenant a bribe in exchange for any letters or documents bearing my name. This would need to be confirmed, but I wouldn't doubt that. This certainly could severely violate the Data Protection Act of 2018 and the Bribery Act of 2010. However, as is so often the case, this organization frequently appears to be above the law, and that has been the case for Hope Not Hate.
Well, recently they released a documentary that aired on Channel 4 at a very unfortunate time. It's very late in the evening when most people would be in bed. But within that documentary, they accidentally showed that they were using fake passports, which...
Oh, yes.
Which also is very difficult, obviously, to fake a British passport. And so there's got to be a lot of skill to go into that. And either they've got very good criminal underworld connections, or perhaps they've got people more plugged into the system to do it for them. Yes, of course it is. And of course, this actually was picked up, flagged, and reported to the police, and nothing happened, funnily enough.
What a surprise. I'm just absolutely shocked. The activist then went door to door in the area I once lived, interrogating residents about my whereabouts, identity, and activities. One former neighbor contacted me to say that she was deeply concerned at the odd behavior of the two activists posing as journalists, whom she found suspicious and dishonest. The photo of me that Hope Not Hate posted in their smear article, which I'm not bringing up the article, obviously, just his response, was taken from a private, invite-only conference, which was it Shielding's?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That clearly stated that no pictures... Yeah, it had to have been, yeah. No pictures be taken without consent, and that hidden cameras were disallowed. I did not consent to the photo Hope Not Hate took of me with a hidden camera. Oh, right, yes, it was... They did the hello, fellow far-right conservative stuff and showed up at it. Which is incredibly creepy as well. The article that Hope Not Hate published on me is headlined with the outrageous slander that I inspired a terrorist. By this, they were referring to the American mass murderer, Dylan Roof. It's absolutely bizarre. Not a shred of evidence is provided to support this claim. There is no evidence that Dylan Roof had ever read any of my material or even heard of me. Moreover, Roof's influences are documented by himself and the American legal system, and my work is never mentioned or referred to. The phrase, "if Jews turn blue," was common on message boards and forums in the early 2010s, which Roof was familiar with. But just blaming that on Morgoth, I suppose. The bulk
If
of
Jews
the
turn
Hope Not
blue,
Hate-
they're called Spencer.
The hit piece relies on cherry-picked quotes and out-of-context statements made a decade ago on a blog that no longer exists. Many quotations attributed to me seem entirely made up. In the most popular article I've written on Substack, I state explicitly that people should stay away from the unrest resulting from the murder of the 3 English girls at Southport. Naturally, the fact that I've spent years telling people to be sensible and not get themselves in trouble or commit violence runs against the picture Hope Not Hate wish to paint of me as a deranged fascist stoking up racial tensions, so it is entirely ignored. Hope Not Hate described me in the most hyperbolic and incendiary terms because they wish to fire up a flare that highlights me as a person to be unpersoned. According to Google, I inspired a terrorist thanks to Hope Not Hate. It is obviously ludicrous, yet in their eyes, it is a little white lie worth telling because it acts as a mechanism of psychological torment upon an individual they see as challenging the consensus. It points me out for the convenience of other institutions in a network of institutions that create and impose consensus on the United Kingdom. Yet these little white lies, the superpower structures institutions have told themselves over the years, stack up little by little, bit by bit, alongside the dead bodies and rapes. None of this concerns Hope Not Hate, naturally, who have turned slander and torment into a business model and career opportunity, but the larger society becomes ever more degraded and miserable. I mean, that's just ridiculous. They showed up in a place he didn't even live, interrogated the current resident, who he doesn't know, and interrogated his neighbors until someone, I guess, gave up its information, and then they just doxed him. And I guarantee there will be no repercussions for Hope Not Hate from this. Of course not. Because of their affiliation with the government. This is, again, justified to root out wrong thinkers, right? But, I think people are really fucking tired of it. So, this is the most recent Ipsos attitudes towards immigration polling from May of 2025. Down here is where the graphs get into it. So, where is it? This is the first one, yeah. So, a third of Britons continue to think that the total number of people coming into the UK is too high, and you can see the change just month by month, 1% increase from much too high. So it is heading in this direction, obviously.
It's also worth pointing out as well that the average person on the street thinks that the average net migration is in like 70,000 range. And so they massively underestimate the true numbers, that it's actually around 1 million a year.
Yes.
And so by those standards, it's going to be even more resounding. I doubt that they would approach it properly and actually give them the numbers before they're asked about these policies. I imagine they'll be asked in the abstract because it will keep the responses down.
It does, to be fair, from a survey methodology perspective, it does keep the answers pure in that they're not priming the respondents with information that would possibly change the results of the survey. However, the fact that the media doesn't report on it and it is downplayed is, I know I've seen that exact poll of how many people they think it is a year, and it's something like 70,000, not 1 million, which is a very significant difference in the number of people. But these, of course, have been trust in Labour and Conservatives to have right immigration policies has been on a consistent downwards trend. 31% for Labour and 27% for Conservatives, now 21% and 25% respectively as of this year. And this, by the way, important to point out, because this is after, this survey was conducted after the Island of Strangers speech. So, I don't know, though, if this is at least Starmer's strategy there is going to end up playing out, but clearly people are tired of this shit. There's no support for it.
At the minute, Starmer is flanking right and Reformer flanking left.
Yes.
And, the old Tony Blair trick of playing for the centre ground has begun.
Yep, exactly.
I don't know why the fuck why that is a winning strategy. Because it's fucking obvious.
It's like a strategy as well to manufacture discontent with the political system. So in many ways, I hope it carries on.
As to why they're angling towards the center spoon, I mean, it's probably just to
no, I know why. I'm just annoyed that it works.
Right? Well, because people have incredibly short memories of things. And they really do, in terms of the testing on this as well. People will forget very quickly. I always go back to that Atlantic article with the incendiary
How do you
headline.
forget
We'll
Keir
forget much
Starmer
of-
is a fucking piece of plastic?
Because the other day he tweeted.
Just
that,
look
that,
at him.
You know. Yeah. But this is has Labour got the right strategy to tackle reform? And it looks like people don't have as short of memories as maybe that was this series of actions was betting on. I think there's the statistic down here that they conducted on this. Well, no, I know it is. Just where is it? Right. Okay. Labour's lost more than half of last year's voters. Just 46% say that they'll still vote for Starmer's party, but despite the PM strategies, they're not actually going to reform in large numbers. Just 6% of Labour's voters at last year's general election, 6 out of every 100, said that they would vote reform now. That's all. So where have they gone? Well, they've been lost to much more liberal and left-wing parties, 12% to the Lib Dems and 9% to the Greens. So just to pause there, that means the number of Labour voters who have switched to the Lib Dems and Greens, arguably on the left of the political spectrum, is 3 times the number going to reform to the right. Just 2% going to Tories.
Same thing with South
Mhm.
Africa. They don't go
Yes.
to away from the ANC. They go to the even more
They
radical
go
version.
further left.
Yes, because these people they look at the system and think it should work. So we look for someone that does the exact same shit but more radical.
Right. But the reality is that you're not going to court these. So it's interesting of like moving towards the center when I don't think you can actually court people to move towards the center. I don't think that it's actually going to work. While 11% of Labour voters may one day be open to voting reform, 70% are at risk of going to the Lib Dems or the Greens, 7 times the threat from reform. So if this is Starmer essentially courting the same audience, it's not going to work by going soft conservative on some issues.
It is also interesting that the Lib Dems are doing so well because they're basically a political non-entity. Their leader, Ed Davey, has spent more time going to water parks and doing silly publicity stunts than actually formulating any policies. I can't think of... The only one I can think of is the one good policy I've seen, which was giving people fines for playing music out loud on public transport, which was obviously massively racially profiled. So I very much support it. But other than that, they don't really have any notable policies. And it just speaks of, well, at least they're not Labour. So it's a dispassionate support.
Right, which it usually is. Excuse me. Oh, I had a cough. Give me 1 moment.
I am mind blown that you have a party and that's basically the only thing that they're known for.
Well, yeah.
It's like,
that was only recently.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how are you in the political apparatus? Like, if I hear shit like that, I keep hearing, what's your function? Like, that's just the bit that I hear.
The circus is part of bread and circuses.
Yeah.
True.
God. Vinnie
What's
Jones.
the What's Your Function clip? Had you somehow found the time to watch Survive Style 5+, Spoon?
I watched it ages ago because you recommended it to me.
Oh, good. Yes, what's your function in life?
Yeah, with the chicken.
Chicken.
Yeah, the father gets hypnotized.
Oh, yeah. Right. I realize this makes
That sounds really strange out of context.
I'm so confused.
It's an excellent
film.
Japanese film that Vinnie Jones is in. And,
for some bizarre reason.
Well, he plays an assassin, and he can't speak any Japanese, so he has an interpreter, and he only asks people one question, which is, "What's your function in life?" And depending on how you answer, is whether or not he kills you. So it's a very good movie, in my opinion. But
enough about my policy.
Right. Very different, though, I'd say, in terms of, or no, more along the same lines of people being absolutely tired of the Muslim violence. A man was beaten to death in Barcelona by 3 Moroccan migrants after he attempted to rescue a 15-year-old girl that they were trying to rape. So Spaniards have surrounded the mosque, the attackers attend, and demanded its closure. So it's positive to see stuff like this in Spain. Is it not positive? Because I can see how it's not positive, but what do you think, Spain?
It's the Spanish.
Yeah,
Spain's history with Islam is kind of...
time for another
Spain,
Reconquista?
Put your fucking foot down and kick ass. You did not offer 700 fucking years to get those cretins out of your lands to invade them with this fucking parasites.
If I were a Muslim migrant in Spain seeing this, I might be reminded of a little Reconquista, yeah?
Franco.
You know.
Where's that fucking Gangster's Paradise clip that Jack Posobiec also plays?
Oh yeah.
The Franco Friday. It's such a good fucking clip. Very patriotic, actually.
Since
I can't
the
play it
racial
because
topic
it's copyright, but it's a damn good clip.
Since the racial topic, of course, is related to this, dude, I just saw this clip. Of course, it's from CNN, but
this, as an American,
let's talk about Kamala Harris.
So this is Trump. There are a lot of bad genes among migrants in the U.S.
That's
true.
That's true in so many ways.
I didn't hear about this, but I love it.
Yeah, well, I was watching Chud Logic stream this afternoon, and he brought up some old documentary clip from 15 years ago, and it was on the number of cousin marriages of Pakistani migrants in England, and it's something
really
like
high.
It's incredibly high.
I
And
did
this
a
is
bunch
again
of
from
number
15 years
crunching
ago.
on that, actually.
Yeah. I think.
And it was just covering, because of the high rates of inbreeding, there's also these incredibly high rates of horrific genetic issues. In this case, it was the kids were deaf, dumb, and blind. I mean, that was just their actual situation accurately described it. But in terms of
I need to find my tweet for this because I think they're like something like 0.5% of the population, but a third of all birth defects.
Yeah, I
think
remember
it
that.
was
UK.
It was around that kind of breakdown. I don't know if that's the exact thing, but I
Gavin
just saw it this
McGuinness
morning.
brought that up on Rogan.
Oh yeah,
He did. That was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jesus Christ.
So Trump is correct. There are a lot of bad genes among migrants, not just in the U.S. but in the UK
you will
as well,
never
just demonstrably so.
You will never have a serious discussion anywhere by just of the rank cesspool of genetics of those outside of Europeans. It's not even funny. It's just fucked up.
Well, let's hear what they have to say about it. The lovely panel at CNN.
Really
Let's
concerned.
talk about Kamala Harris'
as
short-term
a
memory.
black lesbian who Donald Trump doesn't believe has genes as good as his, is he going to
That's 'cause you
attempt to
don't.
exterminate me?
Why do you?
Well, I mean,
Okay, well, let me explain something to you, bitch.
Wait,
That
if
man
you're-
has
if you're a black
reproduced.
lesbian,
You don't produce fucking
Yeah.
anything. Like, you're a genetic
if-
dead end.
yes, if you're a black lesbian, yeah, your genes aren't going to be propagated, presumably. Although
Yeah, and
For one support.
for one,
I want-
support that, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. What was that though? I did see some statistic that showed that I think it's in the U.S. is that the portion of teenage girls who have the highest risk of teen pregnancy. I said teen twice out, but the young girls who have the highest rate of teen pregnancy are quote unquote lesbians. How'd that happen?
What?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before.
How?
Well, how do you think?
Is it
How it
that
normally
feminine
happens.
thing of just like I'm a lesbian, but she finds the right man, and all of a sudden it all fizzles away?
Or either
it's in
that,
the Gen
or
Alpha,
it's, or
which I believe it was
it's-
in Gen Alpha. It's because is it a lesbian relationship where the male identifies as a female? I don't know.
Oh, is that what I meant? I thought it's
Ah.
meant to. Well, I actually okay, it may have been that. My mind just went. It's because it's just a cheap gimmick to get cock.
Or that too. You know, it's
That
a
would
bit
have
of a
been.
pick-me
That would have been
strategy.
my one. Yeah. I like tits
Do you
too.
believe that?
Like getting blasted from behind. Anyway.
Wow, we.
Elected
Why do you
because
believe
he's
that?
damn near said it. That's why, David. That's why.
Because he's
Okay, and I'm not
has he
going to be
said that?
lectured by some white man who has no idea what he's talking about and is trying to.
So we have to defer to her racial-based bona fides regarding race, but he's not allowed
But
to talk about it
the white
because
man
of race.
actually is better because he actually can reproduce, whereas you won't.
Her saying that made my inner colonial administrator come out. It's like, excuse me.
You know that famous clip with she looks like an Arabian chick holding onto the leg of like the English conqueror with like the mustache handle beard.
I know the
can
one.
see,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see you recreating that. Be a damn funny clip though. It'll piss off a lot of lefties, which is why you should do it.
Love to conquer.
to rewrite history here.
Aisha,
I am
shame on you,
afraid,
Aisha.
as an American,
Aaron,
of a Donald
I don't
Trump
think she's capable of
presidency,
shame.
and his actual quotes
Shame
are
on you,
why.
Aisha.
Because I take him seriously, and I think that he believes what he says, and that is why he is a danger and a threat to.
But again, like, they process everything in racial terms. And then when white people do it even a little bit, it's a problem. And it is only with white people, and it is consistent.
But this is a strategy. I don't believe for 1 second these people have actual fear of white people. Like, not for a fucking chance. Like, these are just idiots. It's just annoying to me that
it's signaling for resource extraction, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
all about just extracting money from us.
Yeah, but it's it's so fucking cringe.
It is. It is that. It is cringe.
To America.
Aaron,
I'm
Aaron,
more annoyed
you
by
can't
the,
have a
by the
rational
method and the goal.
Well, it's a successful method. I mean, if something works, why would you stop using it? Well, it appears to be that it's perhaps not working as well as it once did. There's too much fatigue mounting over it.
Ah,
That's
yeah.
what somebody doesn't want to talk about topics.
All right. Well,
Okay. All right. So that was it. Yeah. Just I'm not going to sit here and be lectured by a.
Why do all the
white man.
CNN stuff look so fucked up?
But,
Probably on a cocktail of substances, aren't they?
And dysgenics. You know, it's
yeah, that's too.
How someone looks on the outside, they could be very ugly, but if they have a nice spirit, you know, they roll.
There's a lot of really fucked up looking people. There's not a lot of like proper aristocratic looking people around anymore.
Well,
they're all hidden away. They keep their heads down. I think.
Right.
Yes.
This was interesting.
Straight
though.
back,
Jake Tapper
sharp
slowly
jaws.
realizes. He slowly realizes what the Democrat Party actually is. This is why you fuckers lose elections, is the quote here. But yeah, it is interesting to watch him, like, accidentally discovering why they're actually not
My
very
son
popular.
doesn't have political views. He's just really into World War II and gaming. I guarantee you, motherfucker,
Oh,
he will
Jake.
soon.
Jake.
He will soon have some views.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to read it before he says it, but oh, Jake, yes, he does.
I went on a left-leaning podcast that shall remain nameless, and we were talking about.
What's the point in saying that if it's a podcast that you've been on?
People
and
are gonna
can
look
go
it up
It's
now.
just so dumb. So dumb.
My kids.
They wouldn't
'cause
have
I
if
think
you
they
didn't
were both people
do
without
that.
kids. And they asked me about my son, and I said he was, he's a football player and he wants to be a policeman. And their joke was about my 15-year-old son. Oh, how does he feel about minorities? Like the idea that he wants to be a policeman, therefore he's racist, my son. And like,
No, these people, how can they? It must be so insufferable to have to live around these people constantly, purity testing each other on this kind of shit.
By the way,
It's
just
implying that his son is
curiosity-
racist.
By the way, that
15-year-old, because he
that
wants to be
doesn't
a
really
police
make any
officer.
sense because okay, let's say the main people that he kicks the shit out of are minorities, like offenders.
Well, it would be statistically.
Okay, yeah, okay, but let's say that is true. Who would be the main person that benefit from that? Other minorities.
Sure.
Yeah.
that was the big laugh, and then I got dragged in the comments and all that stuff. And
You get dragged
and
in
I
every
thought to
comment, Jake.
myself,
Well, it's other lefties getting angry at him, apparently, for bothering to point out what other lefties did to him in terms of implying that his son must be racist for wanting to be a police officer and because he has, as we'll see, because he likes sports. Well, he did say that, because he likes sports and is active and is healthy and has an actual goal in life that is
I think he's
perfectly normal.
unintentionally raised a Chad, hasn't he? He's on the football team, wants to be a police officer, into World War II, plays video games. Sounds like
And
my
apparently
kind
wants
of
to
guy.
beat up minorities. He sounds like our kind of people.
But it could be psychological reactance. Very oftentimes children want to, at a young age in particular, be the opposite of whatever their parents are. Maybe that's why people don't reproduce, because it would create people who definitely don't agree with them, at least temporarily.
this is why you fuckers are losing elections.
100%.
Like my
Wow, sound more
football playing son, who has no political views.
Yes,
He's
he does.
15. He thinks about World War II and gaming
Yeah.
and playing linebacker. That's
Yeah, he definitely has political views if he thinks about World War II a lot.
that's his world. You're deciding he's a racist because he wants to be a cop.
Yeah, who has fomented
If you're
that
calling him a
belief,
racist, I'd like to see
Jake?
what side of World War II he's really interested in.
Well, again, yeah, Jake.
How do you feel about Hugo
has
Boss?
Been responsible for this. Who's
They
been
make good suits.
responsible for this? They do. They do.
And why does he want to be a cop? He wants to be a cop because he wants to help people, you know, and he thinks that's the best way he can help people. And that's how the Democratic Party talks to men, not just white men, but men.
No. Let's be honest. Okay, it is to white men almost exclusively.
And I mean, I get the idea that they thought Tim Walz could. What's the term he used? Code switch or something? He thought that he could.
Yeah, bring out ultra dad Tim Walz, who's the epitome of greetings, fellow kids. That was really going to play well with young male demographic.
By the way,
he could translate the Democratic Party.
It's really weird hearing these scripted people outside of the programming, and they just sound like normal people.
Yeah.
He's right.
Well, I think he's, much as with releasing his book, I think that, there's obviously some switching happening in terms of narratives. So it's probably why it's okay to say things like this currently, of this demonization of young white men for being normal, is not endearing them to the Democrat Party in the U.S.
I also saw, I think it was a clip of Anna Kasparian and Megyn Kelly, and they were talking about the leftists trying to get like their version of Joe Rogan because they essentially lost him to the right wing. And my mind just went, oh my God, this isn't going to work. It's not that Joe Rogan is a right-wing person. It's that he is just a regular dude. You don't have a regular dude because regular dudes don't want to fucking listen to women. Regular men, I got news for you, are misogynistic as shit. Because when regular men listen to you women, they eventually go, you bitches need to shut the fuck up because you're annoying as shit. And I know this because the main thing that women complain to me about is other women who don't shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's true. There's nothing that women hate more than other women.
Yes.
Can't be missed. Well, I don't quite like Jake Tapper, but he's woman-coded.
Yeah, you can't sell left-wing shit to men because there is nothing there for men.
Well, what they have sold them on it is that all the women are over here. But those women are disgusting.
Those men have penises. They're not really women.
Those women have penises. Right.
Every single one.
Yes.
Secretly.
Spiritually.
Party values because he hunts and fishes and owns a gun and was in the army and drinks a beer. I mean, at least there was an attempt. But I find it just insane.
Yeah, it is insane.
Yeah, because it is. You're basically trying to cosplay as a man while looking at something that lost his virginity to a fucking couch.
Right. This is pretty funny. David Hogg admitted to Project Veritas that Joe Biden's top advisor, Anthony Burnell, was really running the White House during dementia.
Really? No shit.
Yeah, it's funny to hear this from David Hogg, who is such a big aspirant for power. And he got caught in this. What an idiot.
Off the record, of course.
Dumb fuck.
The foundational question for me is like...
He can't help himself, apparently. But yeah, he's so desperate for political power, and at every junction...
To be fair, I would too if I weighed as much as a fucking napkin.
Right, well, when he hits hit with those rakes, it really hurts.
Well, his claim to fame is not doing anything in a shooting.
It's not being there and then crying about something he wasn't even there to witness.
Also, I would like to know, how is he 10 years... He's 10 years younger than me. He has more hair and he somehow looks older than I do.
Soy.
Massive quantities of soy. I don't know how that's a thing.
I think it is. Or again, it's ugly on the inside, ugly on the outside type stuff.
Well, I mean, he is shaped like an alien.
Yes, he does look rather alien.
How corrupt is the DNC if so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden? Well, the president of the United States.
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue is the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress to you enough.
Joe Biden's chief of staff. Had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was an open secret at the level. I would avoid him. He was scary. What was his name? Anthony Burnell.
What Veritas has to do all
I've
this
never
scary
seen him.
stuff. The whole point is just that David Hogg got caught in this. I mean, of course, everyone knew that Joe Biden was not running the show. because he was clearly demented. Despite this is
Couldn't even run his own bathwater.
considered to be massive breaking news. Oh no, did you know that Joe actually had dementia? Yes, we did. Let's see what else. Oh, the SCOTUS has rejected this two genders case. No, Samuel
My
Leon
good
Thomas
God,
sued
that's
from
what
Supreme Court
Clarence
decision.
Thomas has to look like every day, knowing he
Yeah.
has to listen to a black woman fucking talk. My God.
I know, he's so tired
That
of
woman,
it.
that man has been aging more in like the 3 years since that stupid bitch has been next to him than he has through his entire fucking time as a Supreme Court justice.
Well, just
This
look
is
at the
their
amount of time
covert
she
way of-
talks. Yes, yes. But
It's
look,
their
Oh
covert
my
way of getting rid of
God,
him.
I never even thought about that until you just said it.
They're trying
They're
to kill him off early.
I actually think, that, all joking aside, there might be some truth to that.
kill him by annoyance. Well, how much time she has spent talking?
I mean, that's like
versus
the
all
one.
the other
That's
justices.
like the yeah. It's like 9 to 1. It's insane.
Basically, it's like every other member of
This
SCOTUS
must be
combined.
really offensive to Clarence Thomas, because like Clarence Thomas would think the one place where I can get away from them is here, and now there's one permanently at his fucking job. Just goddamn, poor Clarence.
So this kid was taken out of school for wearing this shirt. There's only two genders. Federal Court and First Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against Morrison in a suit he brought against Middleborough, in which he argued his First Amendment right to free speech was denied. The appeals court concluded the school's action was justified in upholding its dress code and no bullying policy.
Who is that bullying?
So, people who think there aren't two genders.
But they're
or more than two
retards.
genders. Well, yeah, but again, see, that's the no bullying. You're not allowed to bully retards.
Why not?
They have to know their place.
One was elected president for 4 fucking years. That didn't stop anyone from not bullying him.
True. Bully the weak. But they're not going to hear the case. That's about all this is. Because this is changing a lot, so I was a little surprised by this. But, yeah, that one is not going forward with it. Let's see. Oh, this is funny, though, in terms of the woke
If
going.
you weren't allowed to bully retards, no one would ever talk to women.
Disney CEO told the hosts of The View to tone down the Trump bashing. And as far as I can tell, they've been doing it. Have you noticed, Spoon, that we haven't had a View clip in a while? They have apparently been toning it down.
I literally just said it. You can't bash retards if you can't talk to women. So
there you
why?
go.
I was hoping that headline would just end at tone it down, just more generally.
Yeah, that actually is. That would actually be more effective.
What? It's a bunch of women. It's inherently going to be loud squawking.
Yeah, but like,
presumably, I don't know how could they possibly tone it down.
What I just find amazing about this show is that it makes women look horrible.
It certainly does to me. I don't know if it endears other women to them, but I find them insufferable.
But,
I mean, I'm not the target demographic, so.
No, that's true. But this group is universally known for just saying retarded, stupid shit. The only time they go viral is when they say retarded, stupid shit. I can't imagine it's good thing for women to be known as obnoxious morons. I don't think that's like a good group collective reputation.
They don't think they definitely don't. They are in an echo chamber. They don't think they are
because they're
obnoxious
idiots.
morons. Yes, it's a bunch of idiots talking to each other and hyping each other up. Also, speaking of like woke does seem to be going away in a lot of areas, but Pete Buttigieg here has a great idea of how to win back young men.
Mr. Buttplug.
You know. Yes, because the left is so mean to them and dismisses them, as Jake Tapper was saying. He knows how to fix it.
Of course, we should be talking about how, if Speaker Johnson got his way, it wouldn't be possible, not just for gay people to get married, but for straight people to get divorced, let alone like birth control or how he would want to regulate porn or whatever most people would have a problem with. But of course, we should be talking.
So, yeah.
I'm actually in favor of repealing gay marriage.
Well, yeah. But I'm
mainly
sure
because it would make him cope and seethe.
That'll get lots of young men back over to your side, and not like. Oh, go ahead.
The way you win over young men is to make them coom themselves into oblivion and marry a man. That's a very appealing thing.
Yes.
Yeah, but we're not all wild like
Dev. Most young men are interested in. Well, That might be a bit of an unknown poll here.
Yeah. My post on this was quite aggressive. And I actually managed to ratio the fuckers.
PC Gamer's actually referring to it as slop.
Yes, I know.
That's the main thing that offended me, actually. Was
the use of the word slop?
It's that the fact that when you say that they always show for an RPG, you do a disservice.
When I tell you who said this, though.
Yeah, but the fact that you call everything that you've made slop, like Dragon Age Origins was actually a good game with a good story.
Yeah.
So to put that into the current category of slop is, well, it's an Englishman.
I know, but
Peter Mandelson.
I know, just I wouldn't expect the first word in this article about Dragon Age to be Peter Mandelson. But okay. I just read it earlier.
Well, that's a good transition to a gay man from the previous one.
Yeah, there you go. From one gay man to another. Oh my. So, this was David Gator. I don't know how I got Peter David. Oh, he just died. David Gator, who wrote the first 3 Dragon Age games, came out and said this stuff. He said explicitly that EA bosses used to refer to RPG stalwarts as living in a cave. That'd be the nerd cave, you see, where the nerds lived. You made an RPG, and the nerds in the cave would always show up for an RPG because it was an RPG. And that this is why their RPGs, yeah, it's my favorite, why the RPGs have become full of slop, and why Veilguard failed is because they have gotten into the way of thinking that they can that RPGs will always sell. David Gator, however, has consistently, I'll go back here actually because I tweeted it here. He has been pushing. He's also a gay man, by the way, and has been pushing gay stuff in video.
Is that a man or a woman?
Games. That is Jennifer Hepler. This is the old pre-Gamergate lore. This woman got people made fun of her essentially because she made a lot of the characters in Dragon Age 2 gay, and then she went and did these interviews and said things like, "What is your least favorite thing about the industry? Playing the games." Probably a terrible thing to admit, but definitely been the single most difficult thing for me. I came into the job of loving writing, not love of playing games. I'm terrible at so many things, which most games use incessantly. I have awful hand-eye coordination. I don't like tactics. I don't like fighting. I don't like keeping track of inventory. And I can't read a game map to save my life.
That was all made redundant by the picture of her.
Yeah. Right. But when she said, what does she wants a button to be able to get through gameplay. I remember this distinctly. And then when she was posting on the BioWare forums, she talks about how, I don't think having a military background makes Shepard any less gay. We're actually working on a coming out storyline in Mass Effect 3. You can choose to have Shepard be the one confirming his sexual identity. If not, it will be one of your crew, which they did end up doing. It's an entire chapter in the game based on how people respond and react to it. So, and then she talks about her favorite writers are J.K. Rowling, which is very funny in hindsight, and Stephanie Meyer. So she was just writing fan fiction. And this woman got made fun of, hence her name being here as Hamburger Helper. Her name is Jennifer Hepler. Like, close enough.
Why is it that all of these ugly chicks that you know would never get dick in a million years, they're just obsessed with sex?
Well, why do you think? Because they can't.
The answer is in the question. Yeah.
It's a limited commodity for her, okay? You know? But David Gator stuck up for this woman. He referred to gamers back in the day as akin to ISIS for making fun of this woman.
What?
And now he's complaining about slop in being pushed towards gamers. That's very convenient of you, David. After years of pushing the slop yourself, it has destroyed your industry, and now you're mad about it. Again, he was absolutely insanely on this woman's side in defending Milady.
Why?
Over that. I don't know. He's gay. It wasn't for that reason. That again, I don't think straight men are interested either.
Jesus, what the fuck is that thing?
The senior staff for the Elder Scrolls 6.
You're going to see body types that you didn't think were possible.
Well, I mean,
is this just an advert for the character creator? I know the one in Oblivion was brilliant.
I mean, yeah, they're about as blocky and lumpy as Oblivion characters.
God, the level of dysgenics in the gaming sphere is just fucking insane.
I mean, well, you know, these two, of course, are. I don't think Christiane and Megan.
If I just look at the average people involved in gaming, and frankly, gaming players as well, I look like a Greek god by comparison.
Well, yeah. I mean, Angela probably.
And that's
is
not even
male female.
that's not even like being
Not so
conceited.
sure
I can
about these.
objectively stand to that.
God, why do they insist on the dyed hair? It's such a stereotype. I know it's anti-Semitism or something, warning colors, but still bizarre. The only funny thing that happened in gaming, I just thought we'd end on some less intense political stuff, is
God
that the company that makes Fortnite, whatever that one is, decided to put an AI version of Darth Vader in the game. And it really, like, people were asking if it was about ethical issues, that James Earl Jones signed his voice to be used as Darth Vader for future Star Wars projects.
How many times did they make it say the N-word?
Well, what do you think happened? So basically, yeah, they're in some legal trouble. SAG-AFTRA is angry about this because this was not the
It's like you don't know what the internet is. It's like,
well,
hey, look, we can make James Earl Jones say some shit. What do you think is gonna first thing I'm gonna say? Like,
and here's what
Darth
it was.
Darth Vader AI is getting removed. What is this? Oh, is this the Fortnite?
Yes, it was very quickly removed for obvious reasons.
Context. Epic Games decided to let players voice chat with Vader himself during the ongoing Fortnite Star Wars event by using their new conversational AI feature. Naturally, things did not go too smoothly.
Do you like my lightsaber? It's red.
A red lightsaber, as befitting one who walks the path of the Sith.
Nigga.
Nigga. Again with this nigga.
Vader, why would you say something like that?
I speak the truth as I see it, apprentice.
Oh my god!
Is this demonstration of linguistic manipulation supposed to impress me, Negan? Spanish? A useful tongue for smugglers and spice traders.
That one got me so much.
Based Vader.
So bait.
God, absolutely based. All hail the Empire.
First of all, the
It's also-
Empire did nothing wrong. I'm tired of pretending that it did.
Crazy that Asmongold got David Attenborough to collab there.
I know. Yeah.
Hawk tour. These
Now that's
skibidi
cursed.
toilets.
Yeah, very cool.
Not the
That's
Zoomer stuff.
Rebel
Yeah, I
Alliance.
gotta get into the
Oh,
Zoomer.
God.
Me up.
If Riz equates to mastery of the Force, apprentice, then my Riz is unquestionable.
This is so stupid.
Aura farming.
It's just a lot of Zoomer stuff there.
Suggesting I concern myself with trivial aesthetics. You inquire
After the
about
Oni looked up
mommy
the Spanish.
ASMR. Does it involve lullabies or some other form of psychological manipulation?
That is asking you which trilogy is the best in your opinion.
The chat seeks my opinion on trilogies. Such quaint diversion. The original trilogy demonstrated the Empire's might, and the prequel elucidated its fall. As for the sequels, they do not exist.
Unfathomable.
What value do you place on such childish?
They do not exist. See, this is what AI was made for. This is it right here.
Toes.
So many people are afraid of AI, and I feel like it's our liberation at this point. If this is
Yeah,
our
I
future,
kind of agree.
based Vader dictatorship.
That's about it then. That's all I had. So that's actually good. We got through the whole thing pretty quickly. And thanks so much for joining us.
That's all right. It was
and staying a bit later than
good fun,
intended.
and
It
also
was
thank you
some
very much for
bullshit
having
there,
me.
Dan. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna read the super chats, but I don't know. Let me see if there are any directly for you, and if not, I'll let you go so we can read through these.
Hey, that was surprisingly fucking good.
I was trying to be fast. The only one I think is Lamented Guide. Has been a member for 13 months. Says hello, Crown Crew, and good evening to you, Josh. Looking forward to tonight's stream. Yeah, well, it was a fun time. I know we were on some limited time frame there, so wanted to be sure that we got through it. Anywho, yep, Josh Ferme on YouTube and Twitter. Spelled as it's spelled in the description here. Anything else you want to plug? Is there a product you're working on specifically for your YouTube channel?
As in my next video. I'm still debating what I'm going to be doing at the minute. As a little bit of a spoiler, I've been debating going through all of the possible ways in which the world can end, and just explaining why I think a lot of them are unlikely. Just because I'm sick of Daily Mail headlines saying there's an asteroid coming, but it's basically just an excuse to talk about lots of science.
As is always, I always enjoy
Nice bait and
myself.
switch.
So, yeah. Hey, it's
I
fun.
approve.
It does. If you get the clicks, again, you get the clicks on the video by putting like some slop or something in the thumbnail. Then once you get people in, you can start to talk more about what you actually just want to talk
I
about.
will tempt them with the allure of slop, but actually force an education upon them.
Basically,
That's
what
I
you
at least
need,
try to
you
do.
need a chick with like a lot of cleavage pointing towards the sky with a falling asteroid.
There you go.
Well, the older I get, the larger my cleavage gets, so maybe I'll get there myself.
If you want to head out
well
now,
done.
that's cool by me, or stick around and hear us read out the super chats.
I may as well. Why
Alright,
not?
cool.
See it through to the end.
Thank
Oh,
you, man.
nice.
Thanks.
Trooper.
Rat Bartholomew Cheesington for 5 says they were Hitlerian across the room very holocaustly. A lot of these will be from the beginning, obviously. That's why the funding was cut. Oh, this is Harvard. Good old Donaldo Trumpet. Yes, they were all Hitlerian across the room very holocaustly. Thank you, man.
I'm not
Mr.
gonna
Rich Low
like
Pitch.
that song from Kanye West. There's like an old jazz version of it going around, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been like Heil Hitler, and that melody has been in my head constantly for like a week now, and I'm just like,
I've had that stuck in my head as well.
Yeah,
The only
and
thing that's
version of
knocked
it?
it out is I started listening to a sea shanty, which has been driving me mad, actually.
I turned it into a
Interesting.
sea shanty though, which probably didn't help. So
yeah,
something
you
essentially
sound
the
kind of
equivalent it.
bizarre if you just like say the melody out loud, and to you it's just a melody of a song, but to everybody else like, what are you trying to say here? Like, oh yeah, I'm not even paying attention to it. Yeah, it's quite fucked up.
Mr. Richlow Pitcher 5 says, oh, waffles are your favorite food? Well, waffles are a breakfast food. And when do you eat breakfast? After waking up. You're woke right. Whee! Yeah, that's pretty much what that conversation has been like.
It's not far off, actually.
Lindsay's goddess.
Yes. Kizza for £5 says, the king must leave you as I'm streaming with reality based on Rumble. Oh, cool. Well, I'll talk to you later, Kizza. Everyone take care, have fun. P.S. Spoon, show what I tagged you on X. I don't know if you have what Kizza tagged
I think
you
it's probably Ryan's channel.
Oh, okay, yeah. Corella for 5 Canadian says, just a point of clarification. I think that Peterson's wife became Catholic, but Peterson himself did not convert yet, hopefully. That
They'll probably
may be the
keep it
case,
that way.
I don't know. Well, Trundle for 5 says, Lindsay has been spiritually harmed by reading leftist literature for so long while being an irreligious person. Not even kidding. I think that probably is part of it. He fell down that Gnosticism, esoteric rabbit hole and went insane.
I think it's the right-wing stuff that scares the shit out of him.
Clearly, because he also wants to return to gay Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
And that's his problem.
Because he's a homo.
Minnesota Fats, well, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube on any of this. But he's under the delusion that you can. And many such cases. Minnesota Fats for 5 says, I'm starting to think that American atheists refuse the Lord because we're terrified of unbribable power, not because they just don't believe in God.
Oh, that's a good point, actually.
That may very well be the
Interesting.
case. Yeah. Lancer 5 says doctors are like the modern day wizards and mages of old, and most magic users are evil. Yeah, I mean, they are seen certainly and treated in terms of the way the media has treated the doctors around COVID, certainly as wizards and mages. Unquestionable magic. Of course, that's not the reality. They are very flawed people as well. DRT's King for 10 says, I sometimes wonder if ancient Egypt was the perfect civilization, as they were incredibly autistic cat people who built pyramids, and all the stone monuments that are still there, they had archaeologists. I mean, I don't know, incredibly autistic cat people implies something else, something a bit more modern.
That's a good name for a band.
Incredibly autistic cat people?
Yeah.
You know what we called our band when we used to play rock band all the time in college?
IACP.
No, it was
People would turn up. Oh, sorry.
There was Jankum Jams with Jesus. That's what we called ours.
That's quite a mouthful.
Our fake band. Let's see. Lance for 5 says, it seems the English would sooner move heaven and earth than blame black people for their crimes.
Hey, I'm English.
Sometimes it may seem that way, but it's not universal. Shatterhand of the Naked Truth for 10 says, so once all the weapons are removed, the pensioners will only have to worry about being mauled and bagged into comas by you-know-who. All glory to Britain, can't wait to move there. Like, I should have done this beforehand, have to point out that particularly for Americans looking at the UK context, it must seem like the knife crime, for example, is rampant. However, I must ask us to look at our own cities first and see how incredibly, just horrifically much worse things are in the United States, comparatively. in terms
I
of
think
violent
the murder rate is something like 10 times higher, even in modern Britain.
Yeah.
We basically had like, at one point before mass immigration, you know, we could name every murderer over the past 100 years. You know, you could ask any person because it was so rare, and it would be national news. It'd be all people would talk about for a week.
Yes. Yes.
And we'd basically solved crime. And
Yeah.
we did it by hanging everyone.
Bring back hanging seems to be the solution then.
And mass
I did
deportations, of course.
I did actually propose that as a solution. The discussion with what a libertarian society could look like with like real force, and they said that that's not civilized. I was like, that methodology is not for the civilized people to begin with.
Well, right. It's the people who aren't acting civilized
Yeah,
and agreeing to the social
kind of the
contracts.
fucking point. Yes.
Seeing as everyone's oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that was it.
I was just going to say, seeing as everyone's launching a political party in Britain, maybe I should start one and just have the symbol be a set of gallows.
There you go.
It's pretty base, actually.
It does feel like everyone's launching one recently. In terms
Too
of
many.
Homeland. Not sure how that, after the Night of the Long Socks, not sure how it's going for Homeland. L Monster for 2 says the BBC equals black, brown, no Caucasians. Might as well be. Major Metroid for 2 says deaf, dumb, and blind. I bet they play a mean pinball. Yeah, I mean, the kid didn't really seem like he was capable of doing much of anything, but maybe he was skilled. He was a pinball wizard.
Good reference.
It was good. Foggrass just became a member. Hey, thank you. Welcome to Night Tier, man. Horwitz Feinberg Horwitz for 10 says, I'll take the word of the father over father of 5 over some softball player on unnecessary birth control. I don't know what that was in reference to. Thank you, though, man. Normally we don't do them all at the end because I will forget the context. Solon the Lich for 100 ARS says, no mutant, no Xenos, Donaldus the Orange, Donatus First the Orange, Trumperer of Homankind. Yeah. Horwitz Feinberg and Horwitz for another 10 says, that headline would have made more sense if it had come from the boss of Square Enix. Is that about the
PC one?
Yeah. Yeah. Stephanie Meyer, and then Hasopper for 5 says, Stephanie Meyer's writing, bridging all demographics and its appeal. She said that. It's a delusional take. Twilight has one demographic target audience, and it's teenage girls. Actually, that's not true. It's teenage girls through middle-aged women.
Really?
And maybe even older women. Oh, yeah. A lot of women are really into the Twilight, less so than... She also brings up... Oh, did she also say No, she didn't say the person who wrote what was it? The BDSM novel that the women were obsessed with.
50 Shades of Grey?
Yes, 50 Shades. 50 Shades.
50 Shades of Grey is very boring.
Well, no shit. It's pornography for women. Of course it's...
Yeah, but the character himself is just very static and robotic. He's not interesting.
Yes, that's on purpose. It's so she can put whatever stuff she wants in that. You know? It's intentionally made to be a blank slate.
They basically just want a rich, empty vessel.
Yes. And anything else can be filled with whatever crap she cares about.
It doesn't really make a sense. It's usually the women that get filled.
Yes. And that's probably a good place to end. All right. Thank you guys so much for showing up. And thank you so much for joining us tonight, Josh.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.